It sounds toxic as hell, but what I invite guys to do is to think of themselves as the king of the relationship. The king doesn't have to justify himself to his subject. It sounds toxic as hell, but it's a good mental model to have to remember when you're talking to your wife.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Glen Gilbert Connection. This is where we discuss relationship wisdom for today's man. I am your host, Glen Gilbert, and today's guest is Paul Bauer, coach, author, and host of the Come On Man podcast. Paul's mission is clear: to help men reclaim their confidence, rebuild their relationships, and rise from heartbreak. Whether you're recovering from a breakup, stuck in a relationship that's lost its spark, or a woman wondering how to support the man you love, this conversation is for you. We're diving into masculine frame, emotional resilience, and the raw truths about modern relationships. Let's get into it. Paul, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate your time.
Glenn, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate you inviting me on the show.
So tell us a little bit about your history.
You want my Batman origin story?
I've seen the bat signal, so yes.
We've all got a Batman origin story. You don't end up in the space because you've had happy relationship. You don't end up in the space because everything's just working out all hunky-dory, right? If everything was working out hunky-dory, you wouldn't even be reading about this relationship stuff. Like, everything would just be great. You'd just be living life. I found myself in this space, but before we get there, I would say I was always relatively pretty good with girls, like back in high school. Always had girlfriends in high school. Lost my virginity at 16. I went to like 4 different proms, but I was always that guy that had that sniper dating mentality where, you know, the first girl that's nice to me, I'm going all in, and she's my soulmate. She's the one. And I sort of navigated relationships until I met my now ex-wife. And I met my now ex-wife when I was in the Navy. I joined the Navy when I was 18. I spent 4 years in the U.S. Navy. I've been on deployments and all that kind of fun stuff. And my second year in the Navy, I went home on leave, and through some mutual friends, I was introduced to my now ex-wife, and she and I had this long distance relationship because I grew up in Colorado and I was stationed in California. And so when I came back home on leave, I was in Colorado and I met her, and we had this long distance relationship for almost a year. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she's the reason why I bought my first cell phone, because I needed someone to talk to, and it was a pain in the butt to walk from my ship to the closest base cell phone over by the Navy Exchange, which was like a mile away. And so I was tired of doing that, so I bought a cell phone so that I could talk to her every day, and then she and I would send emails back and forth every day, and all this stupid stuff that you do when you're in a long-term relationship. Mm. And after several months of that, she saved up some money and came out to visit me in San Diego, and I convinced her to just move out here or move out to San Diego. I live in Colorado again now, but move out to San Diego, and so she agreed to that. So she saved up some money. I saved up some money. We got ourselves a 1-bedroom apartment, and she moved out. And after about 3 months of living together in the 1-bedroom apartment, we eloped. So in person, we only knew each other like 3 months worth, right? We had that long distance relationship for almost a year, but only 3 months of actually being together. And part of that was because I had that blue-pilled mentality of I have to protect and provide for her. And I was getting ready to go on some deployments. So I was going to go on a 3-month training deployment, come back for a month, and then be gone for 6 months on a what we call a Westpac in the Middle East. And so I was like, I might die. I might be out there and we might get into some kind of conflict. The ship might sink or whatever. And so I need to make sure that she's taken care of. So we need to get married so that she has all the medical benefits and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, I wasn't wrong. When I was out in the Middle East, that's when the USS Cole got bombed. They got bombed in Yemen, and we were over on the other side of the Middle East, over in Dubai, and the Cole got bombed. And yeah, it was a bad time to be in the Middle East. Well, luckily for me, that relationship worked pretty well for the first 7 years. And she and I had 2 wonderful kids together. But that last half of our marriage, we were married for 14 years. That last half of our marriage was miserable for me, absolutely miserable. There was days where I would work like 17-hour days just to avoid going home. Ooh. I would work all day because I knew as soon as I got home, I would just get an earful about what I wasn't doing right and whatever. There were days where I didn't want to sleep in the same room as her, so I'd go out to the garage, I'd grab a cot and go sleep in my office.
Oh, whoa. Yeah.
You know, and we were fighting constantly, always fighting. But I was the kind of guy that never would have quit. I made vows. My parents are still together. They hate each other. They're going to be married 50 years this year, I think.
Right.
And then both sets of my grandparents, they stayed together. So I was like, I'm never going to divorce this woman. This is how life is supposed to be. You're supposed to just have some fun in the beginning, have some kids, and then live the rest of your life in misery. That's what I thought marriage was supposed to be.
It's a perfect relationship. Yes, I agree. That's how I thought.
Like we're all conditioned to be Al Bundy, right? So,
yes.
Thank God near the end of 2013, she executed her exit strategy. And what she did was she convinced us that we needed to move closer to family. We were still living in San Diego because after the Navy, I just stayed out there. And I'm kind of a right-wing guy, kind of like my gun rights and all that kind of stuff. And so living in California, it's kind of like being a political refugee living in communist Russia. So I was like, yeah, let's get out of the state. Let's move closer to family. I love it. So we moved back to Colorado. But the real reason why she was doing that is to be closer to family, to have more support for her so that she could exit. Right.
Interesting.
So she waited, and she's a tactician, and she was smart, and she did her research, and she found out that there was a new alimony law that was kicking in 2014. So she was just biding her time until January 1st of 2014, where she filed for divorce, where she could get the most amount of money, because there was this new formula that, is if she wanted the money, she was going to get the money, and there's no way out of it. Right. And so she filed in January 2014. And then I found myself back on the dating circuit after having not had any practice for at least 15 years,
Right.
and it was a totally different world. I'd let myself go like most guys do. You get into a relationship, you get comfortable. You think, I already got her. I don't have to do anything. And so I got fat. I was like 50 pounds overweight, found myself back on the dating circuit. And for 11 months, I just floundered on the dating circuit. I didn't know what I was doing anymore. I was waiting for women to give me a written invitation to go in for a kiss, for crying out loud, right? So of course, a lot of women were just not into me. A lot of, not even that many first-time dates, but first dates, a lot of them were just one-and-done dates because I wouldn't make a move,
Right.
And so luckily, after 11 months, I found a gal that was a little bit of a chubby chaser. So she was into me out the gate. She was very bold, very forward. She basically, she was doing all this, what I recognize now as doing all sorts of body language type signals that women do, a lot of touching, a lot of stuff that signals to a man that she's interested. I was clueless, though. I was like, oh, she seems friendly. She seems nice.
That's a friendly touch of my leg.
Right. She's just rubbing her butt into my crotch for no reason while we're standing here in line, like she seems nice, right?
She seems nice. That's nice.
Anyway, we went to a second venue, and she basically like attacked me in the parking lot, started making out with me. And then of course my blue pilled mentality is like, yep, this is the one. She's, and I went all in on this gal, and I ended up in a 4.5-year relationship with this gal, and I call her red pill chick because I didn't get red pilled after my wife. It was red pill chick that really, after this relationship, is where I had my epiphany.
Right. Because
when I was with red pill chick, the first couple of years of the relationship, I immediately went back into what I call husband mode, where I just stopped trying. I thought I already got her. And I just, a good date for us was the weekly grocery shopping trip to Walmart. And, I love spending time with her, and I put her on a pedestal, and she was, she's the one, and all this kind of stuff. And, but I still had a lot of the same bad relationship habits. I had a bad temper. I had poor frame. I had no emotional control. I was putting her on a pedestal. I was trying to impress her with money and stuff, especially at the beginning. At the very beginning, I was really trying to impress her with money and taking her on fancy things. But then when I had to start paying alimony and child support, I couldn't do that anymore. And so then I had to tell her, hey, you can't expect this from me anymore because I can't do it anymore, which of course, that's what I showed her in the beginning. And that's what she was like, yeah, this guy's great. This guy takes me all this great stuff. Oh, now we can't do any of this stuff anymore. So within 2 years of that relationship, she basically checked out. And for the next 2.5 years, she was lining up male orbiters. And by the end of the relationship, she was acting so bad and trying to push me away so much that I finally said, hey, I can't deal with this anymore. And I broke up with her, found out later that she was cheating on me at the end. And the signs were there. I just was oblivious to them. And then in hindsight, I was like, oh my God, it's so clear now, right? Well, during that relationship, I lost all that weight. I lost 50 pounds. I was in good shape again. I took up running. I started going to the gym. So this time on the dating circuit, I was actually able to get dates easy. It was so much easier when you're just not a fat guy that it's so much easier to get dates. But the problem this time was I couldn't keep chicks around longer than 2 or 3 dates. And I was like, okay, that's really when I had my epiphany. I was like, what am I doing wrong? The 2 biggest relationships in my life failed. I can't keep chicks around longer than 2 or 3 dates. A 4th date would be a miracle. I'm clearly doing something wrong. Like, I realized that I'm the common denominator. And one of the blessings of Red Pill Chick was that she was really big into self-help books and listening to audiobooks. And so she introduced me to Audible. And I was like, man, I bet you there's some audiobooks out there that I could listen to where I can just figure out what I'm doing wrong. And so I did an absolute deep dive in intersexual dynamics. I think one of the first books I read was No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. I read a book called The System by a guy named Doc Love. He's the guy that came up with the concept of a 3% man. And then after that, I found Corey Wayne, who wrote a book on how to be a 3% man. And I devoured that book. I read that book. I've read that book 25 times. I read a book called Atomic Attraction by Christopher Canwell. Phenomenal book. Dr. Glover has another book called Dating Essentials for Men. So Dating Essentials for Men, Atomic Attraction, and How to Be a 3% Man, I call them my holy trinity of books because I just read those on repeat. I'm still doing it. I revisit those at least once a year because I never want to fall back into complacency.
Do you mind? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think it'd be really important for anybody listening to hear those books again. I mean, just what started, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So it's How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Wayne, Atomic Attraction by Christopher Canwell, and Dating Essentials for Men by Dr. Robert.
Perfect.
Those were my holy trinity. And then at studying that material led me into a men's group. And I think that it's so important for men to connect with other like-minded men, other guys that are going through this sort of thing. And so I was in a Facebook group. It's gone now. It used to be called the 3% Man Group, and we were all studying Corey Wayne's material. And we were in there just swapping notes, which is what Red Pill really is. Red Pill is guys in forums and whatever, swapping notes about what works and what doesn't, creating this praxeology that we have. And I was just very active in that group. And because I was so active in that group and I was posting my date updates and my wins and my failures and what I was learning and all this kind of stuff, the guy who created the group made me an admin. And then I came up with this idea of like, man, it would be really good to have a podcast for the group. And so that's why I created Come On Man, because Come On Man is a nod to Corey Wayne, because that's what he says to guys who screw up in dating and relationships. He's like, come on, man. Right. So it was originally Come On Man, a 3% Man podcast is what my podcast was. And it was originally for that group. And it was me just interviewing other guys in the group about, hey, what brought you here? What led you to study this stuff? And almost all those guys were there trying to get an ex back or after a breakup, trying to figure out what they did wrong. We were all all of our pain ends the same. Right. And so from there, I was dating a gal at the time near the beginning of the podcast called Marine Corps Chick, and she was in like 2 of the early episodes. Marine Corps Chick, one of the plus things of Marine Corps Chick is she was really big on TikTok at the time, and she would put out the dumbest content with like zero value, and she would even be dressing kind of frumpy in those videos, and they would blow up, absolutely blow up. She'd get like 11,000 views in a video for nothing. And I was like, you know what? I bet you I could promote the podcast on TikTok. And so I started doing, after I broke up with her, I started my own TikTok and started putting the podcast on YouTube. And then it just started growing from there. I started talking to other authors. I actually got to interview Dr. Robert Glover. I interviewed Rollo Tomasi. Rollo Tomasi, having Rollo on my podcast absolutely changed the trajectory of my podcast. That guy, God bless Rollo. He opened so many doors for me. I can't thank him enough for that. But doing that got me on Rule Zero eventually. And then I started my own books. I started my own coaching practice. And now I do this full time. So that's sort of how I got here. And now I'm in a relationship with a gal. I call her Nurse Chick. And I've been with Nurse Chick going on 5 years. And applying all the information I've learned from this space, this relationship is the most effortless relationship I've ever had.
Nice.
So
a lot of the things that you just described, how, the previous relationships got you to a point of where you're saying to yourself, I don't like what's happening with my relationships and I got to do something about it. That resonates with me. And I'm sure it resonates with a lot of guys out there where they're like, I think I'm doing everything right. Everything that I've been taught and what I know about society, I'm doing, and I'm still doing something wrong because they're leaving. It's like there's something in my behavior. And I think what you said about, hey, you got the ring on her finger, I don't need to do anything else. This is good. I did the same thing, and I call it coasting. And I had there was a businessman who once said, if you're coasting, you're going downhill. And that resonated. I was like, oh, that's exactly what I think. I know that's what I did, and I know that's what a lot of guys do, where they just get the ring on the finger and they're just like, that's it. I don't need to wine and dine. I don't need to romance. I don't need to make compliments. I can just, I got her. I'm coasting along, and then things start going bad, and that's when you start arguing. And then,
I love that analogy, honestly, because it's so appropriate too. Because just this past month, I've decided to retire from running. Because I've been an avid runner for the last 10 years or so. And maybe 6 months ago, I tore my meniscus. And so I had meniscus surgery where they just take off the torn piece. That's all they do. You can't repair it. There's no blood flow there. So they just tear off a little bit of it, clean it up a little bit. And now you're going to have arthritis in 20 years, but you should be operable now. Like, you should be able to walk now.
Just prepare. Yeah.
And so I didn't run for a good majority of the year. And then the first week in August, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to go back to running. And I ran that first week in August, and that whole weekend, my knees didn't hurt, but they were so numb. And I just had this epiphany of, if you keep going at this rate, you're going to have so much arthritis that you're going to be basically debilitated in 10 years.
Sure.
And I was like, why speed up that process? I need to do something different, but I can't just give up working out either, because it's so important for men to stay in shape, I think. And so I started bike riding. So this whole month I've been riding my bike. And the thing is that I absolutely have that idea is on a lot of the runs, I'm coasting downhill, and I'm like, I'm not getting any exercise when I'm coasting. I'm only getting exercise when it's hard, when it's going uphill, or if it's at least a steady path where I have to pedal.
Right.
And so half my workout, I'm not even working out, it's coasting. And so that's the same with the relationship, right? Like, you're coasting, you're not getting better. You're not improving the relationship. You're not improving yourself. Man, I love that analogy. That's
how I looked at it. Is, when I heard it was from Joe Albertsons, the man that started Albertsons supermarket chain. He once said that, yeah. And when he said that, I was like, at the time, I think I was like 16 or whatever. And I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. And then
what do you know, old man?
Yeah, whatever, old man. And then after my relationships, I thought about that. After the two relationships that just didn't go where I wanted it to go, I thought about that, and I thought, wow, that really resonates now. You get the ring on your finger, you just, like, the motivation is kind of like, I'm good, she's good, we're together now, we don't need to do anything.
Well, and can I ask you a question real quick?
Of course. Yeah.
You said two relationships, and that was my experience. Yep. Was it a similar situation where after the first one ended, you're like, well, she was the problem, all I need to do is find a better woman and everything will be fine? Was this, because that's how I was. I was it's not me. It's that bitch, right? Like,
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of not taking accountability. But I was also my first, so I've been married twice. And the first one was when I was like 20, 21. I mean,
yeah, you don't know anything when you're young. Yeah.
Way too young, way too early. And same kind of thing where it just ended with her messing around. At least she admitted it to me. And that was like, well, I'm never going to let that happen again type of mindset. That's just, but nothing to where I took accountability or, I'm too young. What do I need to start working on? What do I need to be aware of? It was just like, oh, I'll just let whoever come to me. And then the second one I thought was, oh, she seems like a good person, good family, all these things. And for me, it was at the time a complete lack of accountability on putting into the relationship. Same kind of thing where I just kind of coasted along, didn't think I needed to do this or that, the other thing. And so I'm sure she would say, like, I've not asked her about how the relationship is. I'm sure she's told it to people, but I look at it as, what did I do wrong, or what could I have done better? And that's when the whole thought of, I think I was coasting along. I think I was doing things that I wasn't doing things that a woman would probably need in a relationship. And so when I started learning about these things, about what I might have done wrong, or what I could have done better, or how to make things improved, or the biggest part of it was boundaries. It really, how I just let boundaries go, whatever you need, and then feeling horrible afterwards. And now it's like, this is my boundary. This is how I feel. And it's like, I can fall back on that and reinforce it if I find that somebody's crossing that line. And I'm sorry, just don't do that. We're disagreeing about how we want things to turn out in this relationship. I wish you the best type of stuff. Yeah. And that has really resonated, especially in my current relationship. My girl and I have been going on for about 1.5 years now, and I put some boundaries up. She's told me, she's like, no one's ever said no to me.
They love it. They love it.
They love it. Yeah, it's really weird. I'm like, yep, well, there's always a first with everything. And I just put up boundaries. Yep. A
lot of guys don't realize that too. When you do boundaries and you tell a woman no, like, they usually get upset. They get upset. Yep. They might pout. They might sulk. They might throw a fit. Whatever. They act like children. And so that's where a lot of guys cave, because women are very good. They're very natural manipulators. So that's one of the ways women manipulate men. And then you cave because you think you're being too harsh or whatever. But when you hold your ground and you're indifferent to it, you don't raise your voice. You don't get into your emotions about it. You're just very matter of fact. This is my boundary. You'll find that in 30 minutes, she's crawling in your lap because she instinctively loves it. She wants that structure. She wants to enter your frame. Yep. And that frame that you're providing, the structure, gives her that safety and security. Mm-hmm. But and it's counterintuitive because women are very emotions and feelies, whatever based. And so a lot of guys, they just don't understand that. Mm-hmm. But when you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right.
You can't unsee it. Yeah.
Right. You reminded me of an incident where I was telling my girl, I'm going to go, I'm thinking of going to this event. They're asking me to do, participate in this event, and it was kind of risque. And so as I'm telling her, oh yeah, I was invited to be a judge at this bikini model contest. And her immediate reaction was, if you go to that, I'm breaking up with you. And I just paused and I was like, okay, I got work to do. I got to go. I just left it at that. Just was like, okay, left it at that. And like a couple hours later, she called me up and she was like, if that is something you need to do or feel you need to do, I have friends there, something like that. And if you need to go do that, that's fine. I'm not happy with it, but if you need to do that, that's fine. And I go, well, what I was going to say is I would like you to be there so everyone knows I'm with you. Mm-hmm. So there won't be any. And she was like, oh, and that even flipped the switch even more to where, oh, she's like, oh, that makes me feel a lot better. And I'm like, of course, I'm not going to do these things without you. Yeah. But you immediately jump to, I'm going to break up with you. And so I'm like, okay, if that's how you feel, I've got to go do some stuff, but if that's how you feel, I'm going to let you go right now. And I just let her marinate with it for a little bit. Just like, okay, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And just let her marinate with that for a little bit. And then she came back saying, oh.
What a lot of guys also don't realize too is this concept of pre-selection in women's attraction for guys. So if you went to an event like that and she went with you, even if like you said, well, I want you to come with me so that you feel secure about it. Even if you didn't, just the fact that she knows that you're going to be around other hot women and that you could cheat, that actually gets her hamster wheel working. Like, he's got options. Right. Like, and all of a sudden, a guy with options is more attractive to women, and then they try harder. They put in more investment. It's passive dread game, basically. And a lot of guys are always trying to squash their women's anxiety about competition. It's like, no, that competition anxiety keeps her invested. Like, use it to your advantage. I prefer passive dread, because I'm not a cheater. I don't really believe in cheating. I think if I got to a point in a relationship where I felt like I had to step out on my girl, I would just dump her. I'd be like, this relationship's just clearly not working out. Why am I stringing this girl along? Right. So I wouldn't do that. But one of the things that one of the maxims from Rollo's 5th book, The Player's Handbook, is that women love a man who could cheat. Right. Women don't want a man to cheat, but they would love a man, or they love a man who could cheat. Right. And it's absolutely right. And so that's where guys could use more passive dread in their day-to-day interactions with their girl, and all they have to do is just not squash that anxiety. But most guys are tiptoeing around their girl, afraid of their emotions, afraid of their reactions, going, no, I would never cheat on you, honey. Oh no, I only have eyes for you, honey. And it's like, maybe I will.
Yeah, Paul, I think that's a really good point to say, I'm not a cheater. I don't want to mislead anybody. I think it's really disingenuous to do something like that. And it's a difference between, and I think there's something to say about cheating versus, exercising options, right? There's no reason to be disingenuous or to lead someone on and kind of have them have that scar that they have to carry with them. He lied, he cheated, men suck now, men are all pieces of crap, versus, hey, I think you're great, but I'm not going to commit to anybody. I'm dating women, and I'm going to be out there dating women. If you want to be a part of this, great. Yeah. If not, just lay out there. I made the mistake of and I was just dating. I was dating one woman, didn't commit to her, and I was dating somebody else. But the first one I felt, I was thinking to myself, she's treating me so poorly. We're just hanging out. And I tried to lay some stuff on her. I'm not dating anybody else. Oh my gosh. And I went out on one other date with one other woman, and it was just a date. There was nothing sexual, anything that happened. It was just a date and all this kind of stuff. But the first one, I just let her believe she was the only one I was dating. Well, she found out. It blew up in my face. She found out. And I'm like, okay, I can't do that anymore. That's a really bad outcome. And I felt horrible. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So even now, it's like, I told my latest girl when we first met, she was really excited. She, within just a little while, she was like, I want to, let's just make this just you and I. And I was like, no, I'm dating you. I'm going to date more people. I don't know you very well. I'm not going to make that commitment right now.
Yeah.
And she was cool with it.
I think that's smart. When that was one of the big things that I would do wrong when I was dating was, especially early, before I learned this stuff, was if I was out dating a girl, well, one, I was being too needy. I was the one pushing for every relationship. That's a terrible idea. You're not using women's hypergamous nature to your advantage if you're the one trying to lock every girl down.
Yeah, let her come to you.
Yeah, and so what I learned, it's a little more, I don't know if you're familiar with Alan Roger Curry. Alan Roger Curry, came up with Mode 1, the concept of Mode 1. Okay. And if you ever read Mode 1, it's a phenomenal book. It's not even really a pickup artist book, which a lot of guys think. It's a communication book, and it's all about the 4 modes of communication. And what I found for me dating was being a little being more mode 2 with women, which is where you're not direct, you're sort of making inferences, right? So like if a woman was, so are you seeing other people? When I was just out dating and I wasn't exclusive to anybody, I'd say, well, I always have room for one more, right? Because that means I'm seeing 100 women, I'm seeing 0 women, it can mean anything, and she puts that meaning behind it in her mind. Right. And a lot of the times that will make you more attractive to women when they realize, oh, he might have options, because he's not directly, saying, oh, I'm not seeing anybody right now.
Right.
And what I learned is if you tell women that, hey, no, I'm not seeing anyone right now, that basically to her, in her mind, the way she feels that is, oh, this guy's a loser. He doesn't have any options.
Mm-hmm.
And if he doesn't have options, he's a loser, and I shouldn't be attracted to him either because no other women like him.
Right.
Right. So I would be more mode 2 about it.
Yeah.
Alan Roger Curry was very big on mode 1, which is being direct with women, which is, yes, I'm seeing other women now. Mm-hmm. I'm weighing my options. Right. That's mode 1. Mm-hmm. You know, and so, but I like mode 2 because I kind of think, letting women's imagination work to your advantage is helpful. So, but they both work.
And there's really something to be said about if a man has, those pictures of where a man has multiple women with him, that man is now more attractive. It's kind of like, it's similar to how same picture of a man not wearing a wedding ring versus a man wearing a wedding ring. It's like the picture with the man with a bunch of women there. It's like, oh, maybe there's something going on with him that is allowing these multiple women to feel safe with this guy. So he must be safe. So he's attractive. Mm-hmm. The guy with the ring, he's able to make a commitment. He's able to, dedicate himself to a woman. That's attractive. It's these little things where it's like, okay.
Yeah, but a lot of guys just don't understand the psychology of women. And a lot of that's the evolutionary psychology. And if you think about it, what are women really looking for? They're looking for, they want the alpha hotness, but they also want a kind, nurturing guy that can provision and provide for her and her children.
I call it James Bond who can do diapers.
Right.
Change diapers. Yep.
Exactly. And so if that's what she's looking for, and women have a higher cost or higher reproductive cost. Sure. If something should happen, if she gets pregnant, now she's on the hook, and a guy could hit it and quit it and leave, and especially if he gave her a wrong name and she could never find this guy again, like he's off the hook. Right. And so guys don't have that. So women by nature need to be more choosy about who they're going to let impregnate them. Yep. And that pre-selection's a shortcut. It's a mental shortcut, because in order to really understand a guy, you have to spend a lot of time with him. But that mental shortcut of, other girls like him, he must be a good guy. That's what women use to cut that time frame down. It's not always true. Right. But for women, it feels over reals anyway. So.
Right. It feels over reals. Nice. You've helped countless men move on from painful breakups. What's the first mindset shift a heartbroken man needs to make to begin healing?
Well, what you'll find is in this space, a lot of guys, when they get dumped, they find themselves back on the dating circuit, and it's hard. Dating's hard, especially if they've never studied the stuff. They have no real game. And if they've been out of practice for a long time, 15, 20 years, it's a whole new world. We've got dating apps now, and people don't meet each other in person half the time. Like 70% of relationships are online now. And so a lot of guys find dating apps and online dating very, very challenging. So what do they do most? They look at that low-hanging fruit of their ex. They try to get their ex back. Mm-hmm. And so when a guy finds himself in that position, he's trying to get his ex back. Now he starts obsessing over the breakup. Like, what can I do to fix things and stuff like that? So, I mean, the two biggest avenues of guys finding their way into the red pill space are dead bedrooms in a marriage or trying to get an ex back. Those are the two biggest avenues into this space. Mm-hmm. And so for those guys, I really would encourage them to embrace Rollo's Iron Rule of Tomasi number 7, which essentially says it's always better time and effort spent finding new prospective women than it is to get an ex back, because it always ends the same, basically. I'm paraphrasing, but it always ends the same. And so for those guys, what I would recommend is I wrote a book on this called Forget That Bitch. And it explains to them why getting an ex back is a terrible idea, but most guys aren't going to listen to you. They have to experience pain themselves. They have to touch that stove. So I walk them through the 7 steps to get an ex back, because there's proven method that all the get your ex back coaches out there use to get an ex back. It's a 7-step. It's a 7-step process. I walk them through it, and I say, okay, now you got her back, and now it ends the same. So now what? Now it is really time to move on. And so what I would recommend guys do, one of the bad pieces of advice people give in the red pill space though is to get over a girl, you got to get on top of 10 other girls, and and I'll tell you what, if that's your mentality, you're never going to heal from that breakup, and you're never going to learn anything from that breakup.
Most important thing, is to learn from it. Like
Yeah. And what a lot of guys do is every girl that they immediately jump in with, they're comparing them to their ex. They're trying to make this girl their ex, and they're trying to keep that semblance of normalcy from their last relationship, And that's exactly what I would do after my breakups, until I learned to break that pattern. And what I found for guys is it's much better after a breakup to take 3 months to 6 months off from dating and
100%.
Relationships completely, and learn to be alone. And most guys, especially if they've been in long-term relationships, they don't know how to be alone. They don't know who they are anymore.
Right.
And you really need to take that time to get comfortable with being alone and enjoy being by yourself and learn, figure out what your purpose in life is, 100%. And really start pursuing that purpose. And that's the biggest thing for guys to heal if they really want to eventually end up in a healthy relationship. Take that time to learn to be alone. And once you're comfortable being alone and you don't need another woman, like that's when it's time to get back on the horse and start getting back out there.
Yeah, kind of going back a little bit, you were talking about men trying to get back with their ex. And what that reminded me of is there's a statement I think about is the reasons why people cheat, why men cheat and why women cheat. Mm-hmm. My understanding is men will usually cheat for variety. Women will cheat because they're missing something in their current relationship. And I think that most of those relationships that happen from cheating, say the woman leaves and goes with another man because she's not getting something from the first man, that second relationship with that second man, I read something to where it was like a 90% failure rate. Like, this guy's giving me something here that my current man isn't. And oh my gosh, this is great and it's exciting and all this kind of stuff. And then the first relationship is just destroyed. And then the second one's going to destroy, because that second guy is like, no, I just thought we were having fun or something like that, and it's just, everything's just a disaster. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense too, right? Because usually if she's having a sexual affair with another guy, like that's the guy she loves. Like women are there's a really phenomenal Red Pill Archive post called Hypergamy is Monogamy. Mm-hmm. And women's hypergamous nature to find that next guy, the guy she's sleeping with, that's the guy she's in love with, and that she doesn't love this guy anymore. Right. But when this doesn't work out, because this guy's all alpha seed, and this guy's now beta need over here. When this doesn't work out, a lot of times women get what's that called? I can't think of it. Ryan Stowe talks about it, but they basically freak out and they go, "Oh crap, I might have ruined this," and then they go back and they bang the crap out of this guy because they're like, "Oh, I don't want to ruin this. I don't want to ruin this," and because a lot of women, they need to have a guy, you know.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking like the guys that are chasing these women who've left them, I would think it's not, do you really want her back versus, like you were saying, take some time to figure out yourself, because there's something that you're doing that she doesn't either have or doesn't like or doesn't want. And so I think it's a really good idea to really spend that time. Even being comfortable being alone was great. I used to say, and this is for obviously older guys maybe 40, 50, whatever, who have, gotten out of a relationship, a long-term relationship, they're brokenhearted, they don't know what to do. It's like, you just start, don't pursue anybody, just start by taking care of yourself. And if you're feeling really down, start by making your bed. I used to say that it shows that you've accomplished something. But I would also say for those older guys, if you're starting over, get your testosterone checked, go to a licensed physician, a place where they have licensed physicians, talk about testosterone replacement therapy and TRT, because I waited on that. And when I found out how low my testosterone was, I'm like, holy shit, that's where all of the indecisions and why I was kind of more emotional and why I wasn't motivated, all this kind of stuff. And then when I got on TRT, which is prescribed to me, it's by a licensed health professional, we got it balanced out. I am, doing podcasts, work is better. I'm working out more. The fat on my body and places I don't like it is now receding. The muscles are really coming out more. I mean, it's a benefit. It's like a win-win-win. So for those guys that are coming out of a relationship, like, you can make your bed, but make sure you go check your testosterone levels too, because I bet you there's something there that's really, I bet you it's really low.
Oh my God. After, especially after 40,
Yep.
But you know what? I'm on TRT also, and my experience with TRT was I didn't really want to get on it. I read Rich Cooper's book, Unplugged Alpha, and he has a whole chapter on your protecting your endocrine system and making sure that's optimal and getting on TRT. And I didn't really want to do it, but then a really good friend of mine and mentor in the space, RP Thor, who passed away earlier this year. He was on it, and it was the most knowledgeable guy on it that I've ever met. And both him and Rich were basically told me, like, because one of the things I was afraid of is once you get on TRT, oftentimes you can't get off of it because your body stops producing it naturally. And when I asked Rich about it, Rich goes, "Yeah, but why would you want to get off? It's amazing, right?" And
well, that's the thing about the licensed professionals. They're able to provide other things as well, so your body doesn't. You're not going to have that side effect. They'll give you other medicines to make sure everything is still okay in case you do decide. But they're like, But why would you? Like,
because once you get off of it, your body's never going to produce it at the optimal level that TRT can give you.
Yeah, and it was never producing. I mean, I'm 57. Well, about to turn 57, and it was so low. I say it was the equivalent of a 25-year-old woman. I mean, it was just the bottom of the bottom. I'm like, holy crap. I didn't think it was that low.
Yeah.
And then, so we got me back up. Yeah.
What got me on it was same thing. It was, I did a Tough Mudder, I think 3 or 4 years ago now. I went and did a Tough Mudder. It was a 10K. It was all upper body doing, obstacles and rings and all this kind of stuff. And so, in order to really drop weight, for that, because my friend who's still on Rule Zero, what's his name? Jack Napier. Jack Napier is a physical trainer. He was telling me, he's like, yeah, man, if you're going to do all these body weight exercises, like cut weight as much as possible, because then body weight exercises are way easier. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And I was already doing keto, so I was like, why don't I do carnivore diet and really just cut weight? And so I was just eating like meat and eggs, for months, and I cut a ton of weight. But a problem with the carnivore diet is you don't have the same minerals that you need to produce testosterone. So my testosterone levels, they were already, I think, pretty low, but they tanked. Plummeted. And I was down below 200.
Yep.
Which is me too. Yep. Which is crazy low, especially for my age. And so I went to an online professional. A nurse practitioner. They took blood samples and stuff like that. What I found with a lot of primary care physicians, a lot of them are very blue pilled. They think TRT is basically steroids. That's how my doctor is. My doctor, when he found out I was on TRT, he tried to talk me out of it. He's like, look at Lyle Alzado. He died of cancer because of steroids. I go, you're a doctor, right? Like, that TRT is human testosterone, it's testosterone replacement. It's just to get me back up to optimal levels.
Right.
And he just didn't understand. I was like, well, screw you. I'm going to take care of my own health. And you have to be the owner of your own health, I think is very important. So I went with this, out of pocket, there's a company called Mail Excel. I don't get paid by them or anything. And I got on a regimen, and now I'm close to 1,000. I'm not trying to be, up into the 2,000, 3,000 range like a big bodybuilder or anything. Like, I just want to be optimal like I was in my 20s.
Yeah,
and
my doctor. Yeah, go ahead.
And that's the thing, when you're a man that's like 40, 50, 60, and you have the vitality of a guy in his 20s, but what as a man in your older age, you're unstoppable now. It's such a miracle drug that they have out there. I can't recommend it enough, but only if you're not optimal is what I would say. I don't just get on it to get on it. You know?
Yeah. That's why it's like, that's why I suggest always go to a healthcare professional, someone that can check it for you, support you, talk about, you know, where you need to be as a man, especially in your 40s and 50s and 60s. It's going to help improve your mental state as well as your physical state. I would agree. Can't say enough, but I would strongly suggest everyone go through a healthcare professional and someone who's going to be able to monitor your blood, make adjustments where it's necessary, put you on something else that's going to, you know, help protect your nuts. You know, just there's ways to do it, and the ways to do it that are going to be optimal, like you were saying, and beneficial for you without, you know, the heightened risk of, say, I don't know, using a professional football player back in from the 80s and 90s, where they were probably stacking.
They're probably on D-ball and Anavar and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. Versus nowadays where you have people that have been trained on it and then they can get you optimized on it in a healthy way, you know, a way that's going to, you know, so you can have a longer life, but have it fruitful for yourself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say too, if your primary care physician is kind of a wuss and they're like, oh, I wouldn't recommend it or what, ask them for a referral to an endocrinologist. Like have them go see an endocrinologist. And if that endocrinologist won't help you, find another one. Like just find someone that's willing to help you and at least take a blood sample and figure out where you're at. You know?
I think it's really important to say, you know, even have that during that discussion, go, well, what should a man of my age, what would be an optimal level? And then if the symptoms are, I don't have any motivation, I feel like I'm emotional wreck most of the time, I can't make decisions very well, you know, all of these things to where I don't work out, I've got a fat tire around my waist, I can't get rid of. I mean, all of these little things that show your estrogen is probably more productive than your testosterone. Having that discussion and saying, these are my symptoms. These are my issues. Is there anything that we can look into? Because I'm hearing about testosterone replacement therapy, not stacking, not abusing it, but just I'm concerned about this. Is there anything I need to know? And just have them speak to you as a matter of fact way, rather than I think I used to tell when I went and saw the clinician for the TRT, it was like, talk to me like I'm 5, but just tell me how it is. You know, just be straight with me. Don't, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And he was a straight shooter, and I appreciated that. And that's, I think, a discussion with the GP is like, just tell me what you are aware of factual wise, because here's my symptoms, and I'm not sure how I can deal with this, and I understand testosterone might. And if they're like, don't even do it, you're fine, and your levels are below 200, I would say, yeah, talk. There's nothing wrong with talking to somebody else. If they're like, you know, your testosterone levels are at 80, you're good.
That would be bad. But
right.
What do they say is and they dropped what they consider as optimal or as a normal range now, right? But it's like what 400 to 800 is considered normal. And
yeah, I think it's like a 350 to 800, 350 to 7, something like that is a good range to be in. I think. I don't quote me. I don't study that very well.
When I went and saw the nurse practitioner with Male Excel, she goes, if you're at 400 and you're a 35-year-old man, she goes, 400's normal for an 80-year-old man. You know what I mean? She goes, right. if you're in your 20s and 30s, you should be a little closer to 800 to 1,000.
Interesting.
And she goes, we want you at 1,000.
Right.
And so she goes, we're going to, and I was doing creams at first. And so I was using creams is annoying to me, but at the time I was like, yeah, I don't want to do needles every day or whatever it was. And some people do it weekly, some do it bi-weekly, some do it every day. And this Male Excel likes to do it daily, which whatever. But yeah, I mean, mine was like in the 200s. And so bringing that up to 1,000 was just night and day.
100%. Yeah.
I was so lethargic at 200.
Yeah.
And now I have so much energy. I can go all day, and my girlfriend loves it.
Yeah. I describe it as the difference between crying over spilt milk and owning the dairy farm. I mean, to me, it's just that much different. And then from what I understand, a lot of the clinicians, there's not a whole lot of studies or clinical data out there that they can rely on. I think there was one study, I was just looking this up, that came out recently. Where was it? I think it's called the Traverse Trial on TRT. And I think that provides some real good evidence that clinicians can use. But don't quote me on it. Talk to the doctors. But that's what I understand.
This is not medical advice.
This is not medical advice. We're not talking about. I've talked to your GP, talk to your general practitioner, talk to your urologist. Don't listen to me. These are just suggestions. You talk openly about dead bedrooms. What are the warning signs, and how can men reignite intimacy without resorting to blame or desperation?
Oh, well, I mean, a warning sign is that she's not having sex with you. I mean, that's pretty big.
There's a flag.
Pretty big red light flashing there. But I mean, yeah, it's interesting too, because I had a lot of the dead bedroom situation in my marriage near the end. A lot of it too was I didn't want to have sex with her, because a lot of that was resentment, but a lot of that resentment and fighting caused the dead bedroom,
Right.
And just not liking her and all this kind of stuff. And what you'll find is guys that are in dead bedroom situations, at least the guys that I work with, when they first come to me, I mean, they're at the point where they hate their wife, but they also don't want to give up. They don't want to just throw away the marriage. They put in so much time. They sort of have this mental idea of relationship equity, which doesn't really, and they have this sort of sunk cost fallacy going on in their head. So they don't want to throw it away. And I'm of the mind of, it's so costly to go through a divorce, especially if you've been married, 20, 30 years, just through the divorce process, the legal costs, the alimony, the child support, the opportunity costs. There's a lot of costs involved. And if there's some inkling that you love your wife, you still want to make this relationship work, you just don't know how, then by all means, fix your marriage, by all means. Because a lot of we badmouth marriage a lot in the red pill space, because it really is a bad deal for men. But if you're already there, if you didn't get the memo and you pulled that trigger already, there's no reason not to fix your marriage, and so
I understand that 90% of men in America are still getting married. I
would say so. I see it in the comments. People are still looking for, quote, wife material. They're still looking for a wifey, and so a lot of guys still are very marriage focused. That's just a part of our culture, which is fine, Right. So yeah, I mean, guys who are in dead bedrooms are usually guys who have been married for a long period of time. And the thing is with them, what was the original question then?
Yeah, no. So it was about dead bedrooms, warning signs, and what can a guy do to reignite intimacy without resorting to blame or desperation.
Yeah.
I mean, I started thinking about just making yourself more attractive, working out, dressing better, maybe showering. Little things, but also complimenting her, letting her know you not only care about her, but you're thinking of her, those kind of things. But I wanted to get your thoughts. Yeah.
So I would take complimenting her and stuff off the table at first, right? But warning signs: fighting all the time, no lack of sex, lack of intimacy. You feel like you're putting in all this effort. She's making you do all these chores around the house, and you're doing, chore play and stuff, trying to get her attention, and she's just checked out. She's much rather spend her time on her phone, whatever, than spend time with you. Those are big signs that you're in a dead bedration. Like you only have sex once a month, maybe, if you're lucky.
Once a week was too frequent.
Right, because a lot of guys, especially after 23, 30 years of marriage, it almost feels normal to only have sex once a week or once a month. And obviously there's guys out there that I've coached that haven't had sex in 9 years or 13 years. Their wife just has checked out so long ago that they just thought this was normal. And then women have the uncanny ability to gaslight you into thinking that this is normal. Oh, no, it's normal for sex to dry up over time. This is normal for us, right? Or I'm just tired all the time. Your wife's tired all the time. She's not feeling it, right? These are all signs that you're probably in a dead bedroom. And so what do most guys do to fix it? You mentioned complimenting her and letting her know how much you appreciate her and all this stuff. A lot of that kind of stuff kind of falls under the category of what one might think of as love language. And the problem with love languages is there's actually studies out there that show that they do not help fixing a broken relationship. They don't. They're handy if you've done it from the beginning and it's a continuous thing where you're constantly doing all 5 love languages. That actually will help if you do it from the beginning throughout your relationship. That actually helps. But if you try to fix your relationship by being a nice guy, doing nice stuff, it doesn't work. She's checked out.
I've been thinking about James Saxton, who's got that book. James Saxton, the lawyer out of New York, the divorce lawyer, divorce attorney out of New York, who's got a book saying, if you're in my office, it's already too late. He mentioned something about just leaving Post-it notes, thinking about you, care about you, something to that effect, just to give her little reminders. No?
I wouldn't do that in the beginning. In the beginning of trying to turn this around, guys really need to focus on themselves. They need to almost forget about her and realize that they've let themselves. And so they need to hit the gym. They need to start working on their money muscles and frame. Frame importantly, right? So before you work on your game and your game and stuff like that, start working on your purpose again, working on getting yourself in shape. And one of the first things we say is go to the gym, because it's one of the quickest ways to start seeing results in yourself. And she's going to see it too, but you can't focus on what she's doing. And what a lot of guys are doing when they're fixing their dead bedroom is they're constantly looking for her reaction to stuff. Okay, if I do A, is she reacting the way I'm hoping? Oh, it's not working. I give up. Because they're still operating in her frame. If they're worried about what she's thinking and feeling and how she's reacting. So you almost, it's the hardest part about it is forgetting about what she's doing and not reacting to her. And you just work on making yourself the most attractive man you could possibly be, and that is working on your money, muscles, game, and frame. And but frame is so paramount, because a big reason why guys lose attraction is because they completely lack mental frame. And so understanding frame and how to communicate from a position of leadership, because what a lot of guys don't realize is we're sort of raised in this culture of equality, right? Of an egalitarian fairy tale of how relationships are supposed to be. She's my partner. Right. A lot of guys are like, she's my partner. And I invite guys to get the word partner out of your vocabulary if you're a heterosexual man. Okay. If you're a gay man, by all means, he's your partner. But if you're a heterosexual man, she's not your partner. What we found in the red pill space anyway, a guy named Athol Kay wrote a phenomenal book called The Married Man Sex Life Primer. It's like paramount reading for guys who are married, who are in the married red pill, right? And he came up with this concept of a captain first officer dynamic in your relationship. And he was a Star Trek nerd. So it was like, you're Captain Picard, you're overall in charge of the Enterprise, and Riker is your first officer, and he's a smart man. And there's no reason not to take his ideas under advisement. But at the end of the day, you're the captain, and you're ultimately in charge of the mission of the Enterprise. Well, your marriage is the Enterprise, and you're overall in charge of the mission, and she's there to help you support the mission. That's her job. And that's where women naturally feel the most, in their feminine, is when they're supporting their man.
Yes.
And so when you have this idea of she's your equal partner in the relationship, what happens is, because we're all raised to be nice guys. We're on our 7th generation of nice guys now. Right. You, in your mind, are thinking you're being an equal partner by asking for her permission to do things. You're asking for her buy-in on things. You're asking for her opinion on things. You won't make a decision on dinner because you're afraid you might upset her. Well, guess who's really running the ship? She is.
You're asking for permission.
Right. And now you're giving up your authority in the relationship and deferring to her authority, which she doesn't want.
Right.
And so now that she's the universe abhors a vacuum. So now that there's a leadership vacuum in the relationship, she assumes this role, And now she resents you for it because that's supposed to be you. Like deep down, her instinct is you should be running this relationship. You should be making the decisions. You should be managing the finances. I shouldn't be managing the finances. I'm a neurotic mess when I'm running the finance, right? But that's because she's not supposed to. So one of the things I have guys do is like take back control of the finances, because what do most guys do, right? They work all day and they say, you run the household, you run you just give me my allowance, but I'm making all the money, you manage the money. I was this guy. I know how it was. And so take back control of all the stuff, but you have to frame it as I'm taking this off your plate. I don't want you to have to worry about this anymore, that kind of thing.
100%.
But take back control of the stuff and start setting the tone and leading your relationship from a position of authority. And that's the hardest thing for guys to start doing. And so that's really what I coach guys on, is how to communicate from a position of leadership. There's different models to do it, how to set boundaries, how to tell your wife no. All this stuff is stuff that I've learned in the space, just studying all the material in Married Red Pill, all the books, all the required reading. When I Say No, I Feel Guilty, No More Mr. Nice Guy, Athol K's Married Man Sex Life Primer. And I just married that together into my program. And in my book, I have a book called Get Her to, can I cuss on your podcast, or are you going to bleep it out or anything?
We'll bleep it out later, but go ahead.
Okay, it's called Get Her to You Again. Make sure to bleep that out. Get her to.
Yeah, I've got that. I have a question for you later with that. But yeah.
But yeah, so that's what it is. You have to basically take back control of your marriage from a position of authority, and that's the Cliff's Notes of what you're eventually doing. And guys that have done it, that follow the material. I also have an accompanying workbook that goes with it, so you can work on this yourself if you're a go-getter. Like read the book multiple times and do the workbook. It's a 12-week workbook. And it gives you challenges every week too. Like do this with your wife, right? And all this kind of stuff will get you to a place where you're setting the tone and leading your relationship. And what guys have found who follow the material and do that, they're able to turn their relationships around in a matter of weeks. When I'm doing coaching with guys one-on-one, I found that by the second week, guys are out of a dead room. Their wives are already banging them again. And a lot of that is how to handle women's tests, right. And especially the guys, because the two biggest ways that I tell guys to handle those tests is agree and amplify or act indifferent. Guys that are naturally quick-witted and sort of funny by nature, they gravitate towards agree and amplify, and they do so much better because women love guys who are funny and playful. And when you do agree and amplify, you're turning whatever crap she's throwing at you into playful banter, which turns into flirting, and women love that. But guys who can't do that, there's a lot of guys who are very serious all the time. They have no sense of humor. They have a hard time with agree and amplify because you have to be quick on your feet. Indifference works pretty good too. But the guys who can do agree and amplify, they're out of a dead bedroom within 2 weeks.
Yeah. Going back to what you talked about, boundaries and keeping frame, that really resonates with me. And I think I mentioned that earlier in regards to my second marriage, and where that is something that I take responsibility for, is I didn't keep frame. And that I think was the beginning of the end. And it means so much, I think, to the woman, for man to be in their masculine frame so they can be in their feminine frame. Orion Taraban talks about being the captain of your ship, and then everyone else is passengers. And how are you running the ship? And are you avoiding the storms? And, that kind of stuff. And so what you're talking about really resonates a lot, because I believe you are correct that it's it's innately within our nature, and innately within women's nature, to be men be in their masculine frame, women to be in the female frame. And what does it look like to have, or what does it look like to be for a man to be in their masculine frame? It's like, are they making the decisions? Are they, it's not telling us what to do, but it's like, how do I put it? The way I put it, like really high level.
I actually do recommend guys tell their women what to do. It's a part of what I learned from Dr. Robert Glover in Dating Essentials for Men. He calls it the 3 T's: tease, touch, and tell. So, teasing, playful banter or whatever, touch, physical touch, but telling her what to do. So say, hey, hey, go do this. Hey, can can you grab me a beer? Whatever you're telling her what to do, that kind of stuff. Women actually like that. They actually get turned on by a guy that knows what he wants and gives her instructions. So I do recommend that a little bit.
Done stuff to where, if you wear this dress, it looks really good. I really like it when you wear that dress, kind of softening the blow of telling someone to do. But yeah, if you can do me a solid and pick up my dry cleaning, like Rich Cooper says, hey, can you do me a solid? Can you fold my clothes up for me while I get ready for us to go to the event that you want me to be with you? Yeah.
Or I love this thing where you do a mystery date with your girl. Like you plan it all out because women like guys to make the plans. A lot of guys, they will not make the plans when it comes to dates. They're like, oh, that's her job, and women get exhausted trying to keep the relationship alive constantly by planning dates. And so what I found is you make the plans. If you're the captain, you make the plans. And what women love, a part of what I call heat, healthy emotional anticipation and tension, that anticipation of a mystery date will blow a woman's mind. If you say, hey, I'm taking you out tonight, go grab your shoes, right? So you're making plans, you're telling her what to do, go grab your shoes.
Right.
She's like, where are we going? You're like, well, that's for me to know and you to find out. Like all of a sudden that anticipation is going to drive her nuts and she's going to bang your brains out at the end of the date, especially if you take her to a fun place. You can even take her to like Taco Bell or whatever and just make it a big joke. Right. Like she loves not knowing what's happening next and that she's figuring it out in real time. She's living in a love story at point, and that's exciting for her. And so women like that kind of stuff. But guys aren't thinking about this stuff. The guys are like you said, coasting, right? They're just sort of coasting through a relationship. I don't have to do any of this stuff more. It's like, no, man, you have to be the captain of the ship. You're in charge of the mission. Yeah. And
I guess I was thinking about first dates and, hey, we're having a bunch of people going over to blah, blah, blah. Welcome to join us. Rather than telling, hey, we're going over here. You need to be there type of thing. But that's also the first date versus, I think what you're coming from is like a place of relationship where you're in it. Yeah.
Well, even a first date, I found that worked really good. Right. So what I would do was I would say, when are you free to get together? Which is something I learned from Corey Wayne. When are you free to get together? And she would say Thursday night. Okay. And I would always have a go-to place for a first date because then you don't have to think about it. You already have a plan in mind. And you've done this date a million times. She's the only one on this first date. So that's muscle memory. So I would say, great. Well, meet me Thursday night, 7 p.m. at the Feisty Pint. I'm telling her. I'm not asking her.
Right.
Oh, great. Great. You meet me. So whatever. And it's not mean. But what I found was telling women, like once they told me when they were free, telling them when and where to meet me and at what time, I got way more yeses. Women were like, oh, I don't have to think about anything. Yeah, that sounds great.
Don't have to think about anything. I think, we probably talked about this previously, not on this episode, but off camera, where Sterling Cooper talks about taking the pressure off a woman, just alleviating all of the responsibilities off of her shoulders makes her feel so much more attracted to you.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, historically, what were women's responsibilities, right? Maintain the cleanly house, cook dinner, take care of the kids. Those were her responsibilities. Everything else in the world, wars, putting food on the table, a roof over your head, all that stuff was a man's job. And so now in this equal nature that we've given women all this equality, women are forced to be in their masculine all the time. And then now all these women are on antidepressants, right? Because they can't handle all the stress that the real world gives them. They can't live in their feminine fantasy of just loving families and being nurturing and kind all the time. They have to actually make serious decisions in life. So you'll find that even the most bossiest of boss babes, when they're in a relationship, the last thing they want to do is be a bossy boss babe. They might act that way because they're just habit-based. But if you are really good, you have a really strong mental frame, and you're like, hey, I got this. Don't worry about it.
Right.
And they're able to relax into their feminine and not have to worry about things. They just turn to putty for you.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're like, oh, my God, he's a real man, whatever that means. But
Yeah, I think I might have mentioned this to you as well. It's with my girl, I started doing that, and it, like, don't worry about anything. I got this. We're set up for wherever, And then when we're going out, it's like, let me be, I want you on the inside of the sidewalk if we're walking on the sidewalk. Let me lead just a shoulder ahead in case there's a group of people. I'll can take on anything that might happen, or I can part the sea of people so you're okay and we can get through stuff, and we just, all those little things that I started doing added up to her to where she doesn't have to worry about anything. She's a director at a tech company, and she runs like 12 people report to her, 10 of her are men. She's got to be in her masculine friend the entire time. And then when she's around me, you can just kind of see, it just kind of melts away. And she's done some stuff where she's like, I'm not even thinking. I'm not even thinking about what's going on, because like I'm taking on that responsibility. I'm keeping, an idea of what's going on around us, so she doesn't have to think about that kind of stuff. She feels safe, I think, is another way of doing it. Yeah. And she's like, I'm just like gliding right along. I'm not even really paying attention. I'm like, I got this. Yep. I know you are. Yep. It's really funny. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny when I embraced that role, because like it or not, if you want to be successful in relationships, you have a burden of performance, a man. And that's one of them. Is
Michael
being the
Sartain
guy,
says the burden of performance is all the time, 100% of the time. Men have a burden of performance. Yep.
Yeah. And so if you don't want that, be single, but you still have that same performance for yourself anyway. You're going to do it anyway. You might as well just own it. So,
right.
But as soon as I started doing that, and I learned to be more decisive, more assertive, all those kinds of qualities that are masculine traits, I found that my relationships just got easier. They just got way easier, because women really do like it to not have to think of it. They just want to show up looking hot. Yeah. Really, I want you to take care of life and everything and all of the world's challenges. I just want to show up looking hot. That's the way women operate. And guys are like, it's unfair or whatever. It's like, yeah, but that's because you're still in this paradigm of an equal, egalitarian world. But we don't. Even though society has taught you that that's what's right, it's not what is. And that's really what Red Pill is about. It's about what is, and we just don't argue with it. We're like, okay, well, if that's the way it is, we'll just navigate it that way.
Yeah. I like to ask, when people say, I want a partnership, I like to ask, what does that mean? Define that for me, because I don't really understand that, because men and women think differently. There are things that a woman can do much better than I can, and there are things that I can do much better than a woman can. It's just who we are as people. And so I'm always wondering, like, how do you define partnership? And then, well, it's 50-50. Well, define 50-50. What does that mean to you? Does that mean I don't have to pay for the glass of wine on the first date? Is that a 50-50? Yeah. And that's always like, well, that gets rejected.
Right. Yeah.
Right,
and if you think, if you talk to women about it, right, women, they're not about being 50-50 on a first date at all. You better make the plans. You better pay for it all. You better show me a good time, all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to divorce, they're all about 50-50 then, aren't they?
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, that is how it is. But that's another reason for laying down some boundaries right off the bat, saying this is what I will go with, this is what I won't go with. And it's interesting now to have this partnership and say people want a partnership, and then ask them to define it, and it doesn't always come out at 50-50. So
yeah, it really doesn't. And the sooner that you embrace it, the sooner you'll realize that relationships are actually more effortless when you're a little more decisive. Yeah. And guys just have a hard time with that. And so for guys who, especially the decisiveness, right? Like I love using the dinner debate analogy, because that's such a pain point for guys. Why can't she just pick a place? Because it's not her job. That's your job. Right. So for guys who are indecisive, one exercise I like them to do is the flip a coin technique, right? So narrow your choices down to two things, and assign heads and tails like you would normally with a coin flip, and then flip the coin and don't even look at it. Mm-hmm. Just go like, what did you hope it would land on?
Right.
Because that's what your gut says to do. Go with your gut. Right. And then you'll learn to just pick a place faster. You'll learn to make decisions faster. If you ever read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He says successful men make decisions very quickly and they change their minds very rarely, if ever.
Right.
So that will help you so much in a relationship. If you are decisive and you just make choices very quickly, your wife will love it. Like 9 times out of 10, she doesn't want to make decisions anyway. In fact, she doesn't even know what shoes she's going to wear tomorrow for the dinner date that you're taking her on. Like, so women are terrible at making decisions. Just pick a place, make the decision, start making different choices. And what you'll find is that your girl will get trained up enough with this and get used to it enough that if she really wants something, she'll speak up. My girl, she knows that if she doesn't say something that she really wants to do, that I'll just pick a place and we're just going to go with what I'm doing.
Yep.
So
Agreed.
now she makes suggestions. She goes, "Hey, what do you think about going to this restaurant? I want to try that out." I'm like, "Sounds great. Let's go."
Yes. 100%. That's exactly what my girl and I do. I'll throw out a couple things and she's like, "Well, I was thinking about this one place." And I'm like, "Okay, so obviously that's been on her mind. She's interested in eating some of the food there." I'm like, "Cool, let's go. I'll make the res. Not a problem. Let's go. Let's do this." Yeah. Just
that works.
Yeah.
That works great.
Yeah. The problems I've seen and encountered personally is when, "How about here?" "No." "Okay, I'm thinking about this, but no." "All right. I want to go here." "No."
Well, so what I tell guys for that situation, and this is one of those things I learned from Christopher Canwell's book, right? Is when you say, "Hey, I want steak tonight. We're going to go to Chili's or whatever." And she goes, "Ooh, I don't want Chili's. I don't like Chili's." "Oh, okay. Well, do you have a better suggestion?" And if she does, okay, yeah, that sounds great. Like, there's no reason not to go with your first officer's suggestion, right? Especially if you don't really care. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, let's just go to that place. I'm good with that. But if she doesn't know, because a lot of women are like, "I don't know, I just don't like that place." Okay, well, I'm going to that place. You're welcome to join.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, well, that's great. I've given you 3 places. All of them are no, but you don't have a suggestion. I'm going to go to the first place I mentioned. You want to go?
Yeah, you're welcome to join me. Yeah. And then you leave it up to them. You leave it up to them. They can fend for themselves. They can go to another restaurant if they want. But I'm going to Chili's, damn it, because they have a really good guiltless grill there. And I'm
yeah. But I mean, the point to it is like you've given some options. None of them are good. They don't know though. It's like, okay, this is where I'm going. I'm going to make a decision and go here. Love to have you come with me. Be great. If not, that's cool too. I understand.
But I found I've never had to get there with the girls I'm dating. Ever since I started doing that and just picking a place and saying, "Hey, let's go to this place," all I ever get is, "that sounds good." Because women really just don't like making decisions, and they love when men make the plans. So they're just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I can find something there," But if you keep going, if you're the guy who only eats Taco Bell every day and you just go to the same place, you're going to have some resistance there.
That will buck up. Yeah, I agreed.
You got to understand that, But
yeah, very men. Understood. Yeah. What are some common ways men unknowingly sabotage their relationships after heartbreak, and how can they break the cycle?
Oh, after a heartbreak. So you're talking about they're heartbroken and then they're getting into a new relationship and then they're sabotaging that?
Yeah. Like they carry on basically the bad habits into the next one.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking with that. So, I mean, just when I go back to my story with Red Pill Chick, that's exactly what I did. I was trying to make my relationship with Marine, all these gals, with
all the women, man.
It's a good problem to have. With Red Pill Chick, I was trying to immediately get back into that normalcy that I had, almost like with my wife, which was, we watch Netflix and drink some beers and go to bed, and we don't date anymore. And I'm just a couch potato and kind of stuff like that. And then what I found after Red Pill Chick, I dated a gal that I call Cop Chick. I dated Cop Chick for like 3 months. And this was before I really started studying this stuff a lot. I immediately tried to make Cop Chick Red Pill Chick. And I was and we had only dated a couple times, and I was immediately just like, "Let me come down to your house and stay with you for a week," that kind of stuff. Because I worked remotely, so that's what I did with Red Pill Chick. Is I would literally every other week when I didn't have my kids, I'd go and live at her house. I immediately went into husband mode, right? So I immediately tried to do that with Cop Chick. you got to understand that all these women are different. You can't be trying to make every chick you meet your last girlfriend. You can't be doing that. And that's a big thing because guys are very, they like normalcy. They like, even flow. They want to have a problem-free life. That's classic nice guy syndrome. They're trying to lock down every girl they meet. That's a big problem that I had after Red Pill Chick. And that's really where I found that women didn't like me that much. It was because I was being too needy. I was trying to push for a relationship with every girl just to get off the dating circuit because everyone hates the dating. So I would say take that time off, learn to be alone. When you get back on the dating circuit, don't be in a rush to get into your next relationship. Spin plates. Actually date multiple women. It's the most efficient way to date. A lot of guys can't wrap their mind around it. They're very monogamy based because of our society. So they get into sniper dating mentality. And the thing is, and they're looking for their soulmate. Right. Mm-hmm. One of the things I talk about in my first book is that the concept of soulmates, and the problem with it is, let's say the soulmate myth is true. Okay. And let's say the even though the odds are against it, there's 4 billion women on the planet, but your soulmate lives 10 miles down the road. If you have sniper mentality when you're dating and you think every girl that's somewhat nice to you is your possible soulmate, what you're doing is like this girl at the gas station you think is nice to you, you get blinders on and you think she's your soulmate, but you can't see any of the other girls around you. And so you go all in on this girl and waste lots of time and effort and whatever trying to make this girl your soulmate when your real soulmate lives 10 miles down the road, but you can't see her because you have sniper dating mentality. But if you date multiple women and you keep your options open and you're not trying to get locked down by the first girl that's nice to you and you actually enjoy the dating process, like learn to have fun with it and make it a game. That's why we call it game. It's supposed to be fun. Have fun with it. You'll find that the cream rises to the top and this is why women do it. Like women are natural plate spinners. Women just call it dating. We call it spinning plates. They just call it dating. This is how women naturally date because they're looking for their best possible option. That's their hypergamous nature. Well, if guys did that and took a note from the way women date and dated multiple women at once, what you'll find is the women that are going to put investment in will start showing themselves. The women who aren't will fall off. And the cream rises to the top, and the best women will try to lock you down. And so you actually just have some fun with it, take some time with it, and don't be in a rush to be in a relationship. Like enjoy being single for a while. It'd
be a good idea just to look at why do you want to get into another relationship so quickly? Is it because there's you're out of your comfort zone. You need to have someone by your side. I mean, that's something I would think that needs to be done. For me,
I think what it was like, I had a coach myself. I had a business coach that I hired for a few months. And it was 3 coaches actually in the program. And this was like late last year, earlier this year, I was going through their program. And one of the coaches told me, he said, when it comes to dating, what do men really want? Is it more dates or is it sex? Men want sex, right? And so what I think is a lot of guys, they don't like being alone at night because they don't like having to watch porn and rub one out. So they're looking for someone to have sex with. And so they think, oh, if I'm in a long-term relationship, I'm going to have more sex, which is actually statistically true. You do, but look at what happened in your last marriage. It ended up in a dead bedroom situation because you fell back on that old unattractive programming. And so do you really get more sex when you're in a long-term relationship near the end if you don't study all this stuff and learn game and frame and all that kind of stuff? No, you don't. So
let's talk about that guy that had 9 years without sex, you said?
Yeah. Oh, that guy is one of my biggest success stories too.
That's cool.
Yeah. This guy, David, he's in my wolf pack. It's my men's group. And that guy, if David can turn things around, anybody can. Cause that guy, he married a gal who was very religious. And so no sex before marriage kind of thing. But she really wanted children. So when they got married, they immediately started having sex so that she could get pregnant. So it was like a means to an end. And then once they had a couple of kids, it dried up. She just wasn't into it. She had a lot of negative paradigms around sex because of her religious upbringing. And so he got fat. He thought this is just the way life is. I'm going to get fat. He gained tons of weight. He ended up being like 300 some odd pounds.
Whoa.
And on top of that, he had kidney failure. And so he was on dialysis for a long time. That kidney problem caused erectile dysfunction. He had to have a kidney transplant.
Ooh.
All this stuff compounded, and he ended up not having sex for 9 years. He built up a lot of resentment for his wife for not being into it, all this kind of stuff. Right. And then he found my content, started applying it, joined my men's group, started reading all my books. He reads them all on repeat. He was able to turn things around in less than a year with his wife just by applying all the stuff that I talk about. And he did the erectile dysfunction. He fixed that stuff on his own, just self-study, learning different techniques, homeopathic methods, and all these kind of things. He was able to fix his erectile dysfunction, which you need if you're going to, not be in a dead bedroom. But the frame and not taking his wife too seriously, all this kind of stuff. Oh, and losing weight. He asked us in the group to hold him accountable. He lost tons of weight. Right. His wife noticed all these changes and she was starting to get frantic about it. She was like, "I think you've lost enough weight," and he was like, "No, I haven't reached my goal yet. I'm going to keep going. I'm not at a healthy weight. I'm going to keep going." And she realized, holy shit, if this guy is going to make himself so attractive that I might actually lose him. Yep. She started losing weight too. She was like, "I'm going to go on walks with you. I'm going to exercise with you," and all this stuff. She started losing weight. Yep. And then he never made a secret to her about what he was working on. So he was always reading my books, listening to my podcast, all this kind of stuff. And she goes, "Hey, you're listening to that guy, that podcast guy. Does he have any books he recommends for women?" And so I said, "Yeah, my girlfriend, her main books that she listens to are The Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands by Dr. Laura and Keys to the Kingdom by Alison Armstrong." And so she started reading those books. And also there's a book called The Bad Girl's Bible or whatever. My girl reads that book too. And so she started reading Bad Girl's Bible, all this stuff. Anyway, she sends him dirty text messages now. They have sex all the time now. He goes, this is the best place I've ever been in my marriage. And they've been married for 30 years now or something like that. He's like, "This is the best it's ever been. It was never this good, even in the beginning of the relationship." But that's because he learned all the game that we talk about in the red pill space, and he started applying it in his. So, yeah, if David could turn things around, I mean, he had the worst possible situation I've ever seen, and he turned it around in less than a year just by applying all this stuff and working on himself and making himself his own mental point of origin and all that stuff.
Incredible. And how long has he been married?
I think about 30 years now.
30 years, and he turned it around. I mean, good for him. Yeah, that's amazing.
And he's been in my men's group for 2 years now, and I think he's been listening to my podcast since the beginning. I've had the podcast for 5 years now, so
good for him. Good for him. No, that's a great success story. I mean, that's great. That's fantastic. What advice would you give to women who want to support their partner through heartbreak or emotional recovery without overstepping?
Well, I mean, if he's going through heartbreak and stuff, does he really have a partner anymore? That's my only question with that. Unless it's a gal who, what would be a good scenario for that would be a guy who is a widower, like he lost his wife and now he's dating again and now he's still an emotional mess. That would be a heavy burden on a woman. I would say have some patience for that guy, because that would, I think, just understanding the way women don't really care about our struggles. And if a guy's just, complaining and all he's doing is talking about his ex-wife, that's got to turn a girl off, So I would say have some patience for that guy and maybe some empathy. Women's solipsistic nature doesn't allow them to do that as well as you would think, though. So
he needs to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've said nice guys often struggle in relationships. What's the difference between being kind and being passive? And how can men reclaim their power?
Oh, that's a good question, because we do have to make the distinction, right? That when we talk about nice guys in the space, we're talking about nice guy syndrome that's laid out by Dr. Robert Glover. His book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, really breaks down nice guy syndrome. So we're not talking about a guy who's kind, because a lot of people have black and white thinking. They think you're either a nice guy or you're an asshole jerk. You don't have to be an asshole jerk, okay? But you can't be a doormat, someone that walks all over you, someone that has no boundaries, someone that doesn't say what they mean, all these kinds of things. And so what nice guys tend to do is they think they're nice. They think that they're being nice, but really the only reason why they're being nice is to get something from other people. We call those covert contracts. So a lot of times when it comes to women, they're overly nice. They're overly agreeable. They give a lot of flowers and candies and take women on fancy dinners, expecting something in return, usually sex, right? Especially when you're out dating. I took her to a nice fancy dinner and she can't even put out, or whatever. Why did she ghost me? Well, what a bitch. I did all this nice stuff for her. And it's like, okay, if you're making a big deal about it and you're yelling about it and this bitch, because I did this nice stuff, that's a covert contract right there. That's an excellent sign that you did that to get something.
Right.
And you weren't really being nice. And so a lot of guys too who are self-proclaimed nice guys, they're very passive. You said passive by nature, right? So that's where I don't want to make any decisions. I want her to tell me what to eat and where to go and what to do and make the plans. And I just show up, right? That's being very passive by nature. Women don't like that because they want you to set the tone and lead. They want you to make the plans and make the decisions and be assertive and all this kind of stuff. They don't want to have to think about that kind of stuff. But if you're being passive, it's unattractive behavior. So they don't like that. Passive aggressiveness comes out a lot in nice guys, where you, instead of just articulating what your boundary is or what your problem is, you sort of make snide little comments or snide little remarks, and you don't just flat out say what you mean. And so that kind of stuff shows up in guys with classic nice guy syndrome. And really it's just, I don't blame those guys. They don't really understand that they're doing anything wrong, because we're raised through our upbringing. Your dad was probably a nice guy. My dad's a classic nice guy. So he's anything but nice. He's a total raging jerk. He's got anger management problems. He's always had a bad temper. I used to have a really bad temper, and it was all because I learned this from my dad. And so a lot of us learn this from our dads, or if your dad's not in the picture, it shows up because when you're being raised by moms are really not that great at providing solid structure that boys need. So like if you have a dad in the house, typically kids understand that dad has certain rules, and as long as we don't break those rules, we're fine. Dad's not mad. But moms, they might have rules, but they'll selectively enforce the rules depending how they feel that day, right? So maybe one day mom's very strict, we're doing this, this, and this, and don't break these rules. But the next day, I don't feel like enforcing those rules. Fine, go do these things. And all boys learn from that sort of thing is, I don't know what my real boundaries are. I just know that mom's mad today or mom's not mad today, and I want to keep mom happy. And so we learned this happy wife, happy life paradigm by trying to keep mom happy. Right. So then we get into relationships where we just walk on eggshells trying to keep our wives and girlfriends happy all the time.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I would say that would be the difference. Now, you can be kind and but still have boundaries and being able to set rules and enforce rules and stuff like that. And great ways to do this sort of thing is like if your girlfriend, your wife's upset, a lot of guys allow her emotions to get them into their emotions. This is where we tend to get frustrated and angry with her because she won't tell us why she's mad. Women don't want you climbing on their emotional roller coaster. They want to know that someone in the relationship has their feet on the ground and is even keeled, and they don't want their emotional storms to affect you. They want to know that it has no impact. Right. Because if you allow her emotions to impact you, that means that life challenges are going to impact you in a negative way. And so once you learn how to not climb on her emotional roller coaster, sort of treat her emotions with a little, maybe some empathy, but with indifference, Learn how to communicate with her through one method I learned from Paul Benjamin is the Luca model of communication, which is just, hey, what's eating at you? And then just letting her get it off her chest and not get mad about it. If she's mad at you for something, don't take it personally. Just let her get it off her chest. Ask clarifying questions so that you have an understanding of what she's going through. You don't have to apologize for anything. You don't have to explain yourself. In fact, it's better that you don't. And like, even if she's mad at you for something, be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can understand why that would make you upset. That kind of stuff. You could be kind. You don't have to yell back at her or be a jerk or call her a bitch or anything. You can just be like, yeah, that must be really frustrating for you. And what you'll find is that women just want to feel heard and understood a lot, and they don't even want the problem solved. They just want to feel like you understand where they're coming from, and then they're like, oh, what a great guy, man. He really opened up to me too, and we just had this real emotional moment, and really it was just her venting, and you just were like, yeah, okay,
Yeah, Orion Taraban talks about that, and it's basically if a woman starts kind of unloading and whatnot, it's to do the I feel now sandwich. So you just think of it kind of what you were saying. It's like, just take it with a grain of salt, be stoic about it. But what she's basically saying is like, I feel blah, blah, blah now. And so it's like, I feel like crap. And then I'm mad at you and blah, blah, blah now.
In the moment. Yeah.
In the moment. 100%. Yeah. There was something I thought there was a bunch of things I was thinking about that you triggered within me during, what you were just saying. And one of those, it's more of like when I think she's throwing barbs at you, testing, but how she wants to know that you'd be able to stand up to her in some way. And I like to think of it as women want to know that you can stand up to them so they know that you will stand up for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something I learned from Dr. Robert Glover. I think he talks about it in No Woman is a Nice Guy, but he definitely talks about it in Dating Essentials for Men too. But I think it was his second wife. He realized that while going through marriage counseling was that that's how she felt. She goes, I want to know that, she said, if you cannot stand up to me, how can I trust you to stand up for me?
Right.
And that's really what tests are about. And honestly, what I found in the dead bedroom situation is a big reason why guys end up there is through this 5-stage process that we call the betatization process. And the first stage of the process is testing. Yep. All women test men either consciously or subconsciously. And so a lot of guys get mad when I say that and they go, well, if a woman tests me, I'm dumping her. I'm like, okay, cool. But the next girl's going to do it too, because they all do it at some level. Some do it more than others. Some do it more obvious than others, but they all do it in some fashion. This is a part of their programming. Makeup, yep. And so in order to fix your dead bedroom situation, because now you're near the bottom of it where she's on her way out, in order to turn things around, you have to bring yourself back to the beginning of the betatization process. And that's where learning how to handle her tests comes from. And a big part of that is not taking her so seriously. And it's why it's funny. I get a lot of flack, especially from guys who are too serious. A lot of my content, especially on social media, you'll see I make a lot of jokes about women. I sort of like, people might even call me a misogynist. There's a method to the madness.
Sure.
A part of me doing all that kind of stuff, especially for the guys that have been following me for a long time, they get it, right? But the big part of that is learning not to take women so seriously. And women might think that sounds terrible. Like, I want him to take me seriously. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. Because when guys take women too seriously, that's when guys climb on these women's emotional roller coaster, and they fall into her frame. If you don't take her so seriously, you actually maintain your frame. You don't, and everything she does is funny and amusing to you. It's kind of like when you first get with a girl and you're madly in love and you got these love goggles on. Anything she does is almost cute and adorable, and you're madly in love with this girl, right? Well, you've been married for 20 years. You've seen all of her bullshit. Now you're a little like annoyed by all these cute little things that you used to find adorable. Well, that's because you're taking her too seriously now. So if you can just get back to a place where you just find all the little things she does, her idiosyncrasy, her womenness, she's acting like a woman right now. That's adorable. Well, you'll find that she likes you more, that you're not climbing on her emotional roller coaster because you're not taking her so seriously. So a lot of what I'm doing is sort of subconsciously teaching guys not to take women so seriously. And you'll actually have better relationships when you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you just what you were talking about as far as growing up in a passive aggressive environment. That is basically how I learned to survive as a little kid. Had that environment, had more input from mom versus dad. Dad really wasn't around. Mom was, well, everything's fine type of thing. My brothers, I can see it in all of us. I have two older brothers, three of us all together. I can see these passive aggressive behaviors. And that's great that's what you needed to learn to survive as a little kid. Sure. But now carrying it over to relationships, that's where I started recognizing my failures, or maybe failures is too hard of a word, but why I wasn't getting the outcomes I really wanted with the input I was giving it, right? And what you're just saying is it's like how you have to do this mind shift and realize, we're not here to be happy wife, happy life type of thing. We don't fully understand the dynamics of. I think for me, I wasn't understanding the dynamics of a woman and how they thought and what resonates with them, what they find attractive. It was just like, this is what I thought I needed to do.
Yeah, well, you bring up a very good point there, because what you learned as a child created your paradigm around relationships, and that paradigm, a lot of people don't understand this. This is subconscious programming. And this is where when you explain paradigms, you can look at it like it's habits. It's just a series of programmed habits that you do without any conscious thought. And 95% of what we do subconsciously because of these paradigms. And in order to fix this, you have to reprogram that. You have to reprogram it at a subconscious level. And you can't do that by reading one book.
Right.
And then going out there and just being like, yeah, I got it now. I think I understand. Because those deep-seated paradigms have been programmed into you for 20, 30, 50, almost 60 years, right? For some of us. And you can't undo that with just one book or two books or a course or, one session with coaching. And that's why, like I've mentioned a couple of times in this interview, that some of these books I've read multiple times, because that repetition is what seeps into your subconscious, and it makes it a part of who you are, so that you do this natural muscles, money, game, frame type thing, habit by habit, habit based. You make that your new programming, and the thing is that our neural pathways don't just disappear. Those old pathways are still there. And so if you do some of this stuff for a while and you're practicing it, having good results, and then you stop doing it because you think you got it now, you'll fall back on this old programming, because this is what you've been doing for the past 4 or 5 decades. So you have to keep this on the forefront of your mind to not only create new neural pathways, but to keep that going. So the work never stops for men.
Yes. And it has to be I was just going to say, just add to that, it has to be a very conscientious effort so you can get it into the subconscious. Yeah.
It's a never ending process. And
if you really want to change,
Yeah. And so what I tell guys to do is learn to love it, learn to love it, learn to love, understanding this stuff and making it a part of who you are, and have fun with the girls that you're dating, or maybe you're married or you're in a relationship. Like, learn to have fun with your girl, have fun with the process, because when you keep doing that and you keep practicing this stuff, it becomes effortless. Then you become the game, as Rollo says.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, the most important thing is the work never stops.
Yeah. Yeah. It's being comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's how I like to put it, because I'm out of my comfort zone. This is how it's so new. It doesn't feel appropriate, is how I was describing it when I'm starting to do this stuff. And I had to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable outside of the comfort zone.
But what's magic about it is the more you practice the stuff, the more it becomes habit-based, the more it becomes effortless, and it is comfortable. This just becomes normal, like how you manage your relationship. Right. And you're like, man, what a great woman I have, and you learn to start appreciating her for what she is. And that's a lot of people think red pill is about hating women, and it never was meant that way. In fact, if you, one of Rollo's iron rules, I can't remember which number it is. He actually says it. He says it's not about hating her. It's about loving, understanding what she can never be for you and loving her for who she really is. Rich Cooper once said, getting mad at women for being women, it's kind of like driving a truck and being mad that it doesn't corner like a Ferrari, right? It was never meant to. It's got a totally different role. It was meant to be a truck, so same thing with women. Women aren't supposed to be men. They're not supposed to communicate like men. They're not supposed to think like men. So let's love them for what they were built for, and understand where they're coming from a little bit. And you'll have a much healthier relationships when you realize, okay, she's not a man. She doesn't think like me. She doesn't talk like me.
Right. 100%.
Okay. But those differences were meant to complement each other, so.
Just real quick. If this conversation is hitting home, don't just listen, lean in. Head over to Paul's site at comeonmanpod.com. That Come On Man Pod, all one word, .com, and check out his coaching resources. Whether you're navigating heartbreak or trying to reignite your marriage, there's a roadmap waiting for you. And if you're finding value here on the Glen Gilbert Connection, like, subscribe, comment, and share this episode with someone who needs it. Your stories and theirs might just change because of it. Let's continue. How can someone recognize they're stuck in a trauma bond, and what's the path to breaking free and rebuilding self-worth?
Well, I would say, one, I don't like using the term trauma when it comes to relationships, unless you're in a serious abusive relationship.
Right.
Just because, people go through real traumas, right? Like I have friends, especially some of the guys in the wolf pack, they're like former Marines. They survived horrible things in Iraq and Fallujah and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, that's trauma. Okay. Your girlfriend being a bitch, that's not trauma, bro. But I will say this, a lot of people do find themselves in negative relationships that becomes a normal pattern. A lot of it comes from our upbringing. And so how do you realize that is like, are you happy, or are you just dancing around trying to, make someone happy all the time? That would be a big red flag to me, that I'm not in the right relationship, because this woman's never happy. She's always got problems, and I'm always trying to fix her problems. And that's another classic nice guy syndrome, is trying to fix these broken women out here. It's like, that's not your job, man. So I would say that that's probably the best way to recognize it, and then realizing that your job isn't to fix these other people, And so if you're in a relationship where you feel like, I can save her, or I've got to save her from herself and all this kind, you got to realize, like, life's too short, man. Life's too short. It's her job to fix herself. She's never going to fix something because you told her to. Like, people have to fix things for themselves. And maybe it's best to just cut that loose and find a more healthier situation for you.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. They're not going to be able to fix themselves with you trying to help them, because then they'll become dependent upon you to fix everything else. They're not going to be able to do it themselves. It's not a good way to have a relationship, I don't think.
It's not. It's a completely unhealthy way to manage relationships. But a lot of us guys have that sort of captain save a girl mentality, because we're sort of raised that way. We're like, oh, this poor girl, I can save her from herself. Like, no, you can't, man.
No, she needs to do the work. She needs to do the work.
Yeah.
You've explored Christian perspectives on love and lust. How can faith-based men balance spiritual values with emotional and sexual authenticity?
There's a really great book out there. It's relatively new. It's called The Way of Men with Women by Giff Larson. And Giff was recently on my podcast a couple of weeks ago to talk about his book. And typically, I mean, if you tune into my podcast, I badmouth religion a lot. Not that I'm anti-religion, but I just think that oftentimes religious doctrine gives us unhealthy paradigms when it comes to, especially if you come from a really strict faith, where, sex is looked at as this evil sin. It's only for procreation. You'll find yourself in relationships that are just unfulfilling, even if, because you have a negative paradigm when it comes to sex and relationships. So what I would say is get Giff's book. because it actually is a very red-pilled book, but it still keeps the Christian values in place. Like as far as let's say no sex before marriage type thing, his book really touches on that and how men can use their sexual vitality, he calls it, in other areas as opposed to being lustful around women until they get into a marriage where it's a more healthy environment and healthy dynamic for them to do that.
And what was the book again?
It's called The Way of Men with Maids is what it's called.
What's one communication habit that kills attraction, and how can men shift towards connection instead of control?
I would say the biggest thing that kills men's attractiveness to their wives is what Dr. Robert Glover refers to as deering. You know, when you are in an argument with your wife, she's complaining about what you do or what you don't do or whatever, men default to what we call deering, which stands for defend, explain, excuse, rational. You're justifying yourself, you're justifying your actions, you're justifying the reasoning you do anything. When you do that to your wife, you're actually putting her as the authority above you. You're making her the judge of what's right and wrong with what your actions are. And you're pleading your case to the judge. I always like to look at it like you're a defendant in a case, and you're defending yourself, and you're trying to make the case to the judge, who's your wife, as to whether you're innocent or guilty. And the thing is that it sounds toxic as hell, but what I invite guys to do is to think of themselves as the king of the relationship. The king doesn't have to justify himself to his subject. And like I said, it sounds toxic as hell, but it's a good mental model to have to remember when you're talking to your wife, because if you're not defending yourself, explaining, excusing, rationalizing, you're able to still set the tone and lead the environment or the relationship. And so that's one of the biggest communication techniques that guys fail with. And you don't need to justify your reasoning or whatever. You're the king. So the Luca model of communication that I mentioned earlier, which is listen, understand, clarity, action, is a more effective communication style that you can lead the whole interaction with your wife from a position of authority. And even if she doesn't like what you're doing, you can get her to express herself. And like I said, most of the time, she doesn't even want you to fix anything. She just wants to feel heard and understood. So as long as you can just let her get that off her chest, what's bothering her, she'll feel like it's been resolved. Even though, whatever, you're still going to do what you're going to do.
Right. But applying the Luca model to the I feel now sandwich type of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what I tell guys is to remember the phrase, never dear, always Luca. Never dear, always Luca. And that will, and a lot of the reasons why guys get into that deering habit is because they're up in their emotions too. They're feeling attacked. And it's funny in this space too. Like we try to not say I feel too much in the space because it's not very masculine or whatever. So we try to say I think, but we're human. We have feelings. We're not robots. So you might feel attacked when your wife is complaining about stuff that you're doing. So a good way to just sort of snap out of that and not fall into that habit is you can use the 3-second rule, which is just take 3 seconds to think of a response before responding. That way you're actually responding and not reacting. And just tell yourself in those 3 seconds, never dear, always Luca, never dear, always Luca. And then just come back to her with listening, right? And trying to get some understanding. So what you're saying is, you don't like when I do this. Is that right? And it makes you feel this way. Am I understanding this correctly? All right. Well, what else am I doing that you don't like? Just stuff like that. Let her get off her chest.
I found doing that has amazing responses because the whole first narrative gets completely changed into the second one. It's almost fascinating. It's like an experiment where you're like, okay, let me try this out. You're saying blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not what I meant, Oh, okay. Well, what did you mean by that? Right.
Yeah. And you have to do it from like a king would. Right? A king is just listening to the grievances of his, peasants or whatever. So you think that I'm being unjust by taxing you and you can't produce enough goats. Okay, I can see where you're coming from there. Well, I'm still going to tax you though. No.
Right.
But I understand where you're coming from. Like.
Yeah, I understand the message on that one. Yeah. It's just a way of putting it, kind of taking a step back emotionally wise.
Yeah.
Removing yourself emotionally and just, what is she saying to me?
Right.
And then she's saying, I feel blah, blah, blah right now, you know.
Yeah. And her airing her grievances to you, and you're like, now you're the arbiter of what's wrong.
Right.
You're in the position of leadership.
Right.
So if there is something that you are doing that you could probably do better, you could actually, that's one of that's where action comes in, the listen, understand, clarity, action. If she's got a good point, and I think that's a big thing that guys need to understand. Like, sometimes your girl has a point.
Sure.
And so if she's got valid grievances that you're in areas where you're like, yeah, I could be doing that. There's no reason not to do this. I'd be like, okay, well, I see where you're coming from there. So here's what I'll do. I will do X, Y, and Z. And I think that'll be the best way to handle that situation. Like, she'll feel like he's got everything handled.
Yeah. To ignore any critique or feeling like it's a critique on your behavior, to ignore everything rather than going, what is she really saying? Is this a pattern that she's saying? Just maybe taking a moment to just kind of take a review of what she's saying. You know?
Yeah, and having some self-accountability, like, oh no, she's got a point. And it's funny, we've used the term accountability several times in this, and the thing is that, a lot of guys in the red pill space like complain that women have no sense of accountability, and accountability is women's kryptonite and whatever. 99.9% of dudes out there don't have any sense of self-accountability either. And that's why they're blaming women for not having accountability. Well, what are you doing when you're pointing the finger, bro? You're having no accountability either.
Right.
So it starts with you. You can only control you. You can't control other people. So have some sense of self-accountability, and everything else will sort of work itself out, I think. It
really is amazing, Paul. I had that kind of epiphany when coming from an environment of passive aggressiveness and not taking accountability and not, trying and ignoring the realities, to saying, yep, I did that. And what I added to that is I'll do things and expect nothing in return. Those two things alone, it changed my mind shift incredibly. It's like, okay, I'm going to own up to this problem. And if I help somebody else out, I'm not going to expect anything in return. If I do something for anybody, I'm not going to expect anything in return. I don't want to, and that alone just changed just synapses. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, that kills covert contracts, because a lot of guys are doing the nice thing to get something. And then when they don't get it, they build up resentment. So if you build the mindset of, I'm going to do this nice thing, whether I get something or not is immaterial, will change the whole way you look at things. And one of the things I learned from Corey Wayne is that relationships are, you're going there to give, but like the caveat to that is you also have to sort of keep an eye on what's going on in the situation to realize whether you're getting what you need out of a relationship as well.
Sure.
So, but you're not giving to get those things out of a relationship. You're giving because that's who you are. And then if you just happen to notice, like, they're just not putting in enough effort in the relationship, well, then you also need to know, not be afraid to walk away and, have more of an abundance mindset when it comes to women and relationships, and all that kind of stuff. Just makes you better at relationships.
Yes. You're reminding me of just even meeting people. You're thinking of friends, guy friends or whatnot. I'm sure you've come across this. I know I have, where you meet somebody, you think they're pretty cool, and they ask you for a favor. Sure, no problem. But after like 5 or 6 of those, and the one time you ask them for something, hey, I was just helping, wondering if you could just help me out on this, do me a solid. And to get balked at, be like, no. Then that should be your sign of like, oh, this is how I see they're thinking of the relationship. And that's just general boundaries. Having friends, friendships rather than even a romantic relationship. Just, okay, here's a way of recognizing things.
Yeah, it's not just romantic relationships. I've experienced that. I've experienced that in the men's, the manosphere or whatever, where I'm always going to be the same guy. I will always work with anybody, but there's guys where you're clearly the one that's trying to make everything happen, and they have no interest in working with you, really. You're just a means to an end for them, and you're like, okay, well, all right, well, I guess this just isn't going to work out. Like, I don't harbor any resentment for that. It's like, okay, that's just who they are, and I clearly they're just not someone I need to work with. on a regular basis. Okay, fine. I'm not going to make beefs. I'm not going to make a bunch of internet videos talking smack about them or anything. It's like, okay, that's who they are,
Right. Yeah, it is, but it's also good to recognize that. Like, oh,
yeah. Oh no, it's great to recognize that because then you don't get, that's how guys get sucked into, relationships, not just with women, but just like business relationships and stuff where they're just being used. And if you can recognize that, you're like, okay, this doesn't serve me. I'm going to spend more time with people that value my time and energy. You might cut lots of people out of your life. You'll find that the friends that you thought were friends aren't really your friends. There are a lot of, you're going to stay out of the wrong relationships. It's just all around better, when you do that.
I would agree with that. It also helps to build your self-esteem because you start recognizing, wow, I feel better about myself because I'm not giving so much and getting nothing in return. And I'm not really thinking of anything, but it feels like I'm just giving so much to somebody that's my time's being taken up, my energy being taken up, everything I'm doing, it seems like this person's taking from me. And the one thing I ask them to do in return is gone. It's like, no, I'm not going to do it, which is really like, that should be your big sign.
Yeah. And when stuff like that presents itself, I just go, man, that's unfortunate. All right. Well, it taught me everything I need to know.
Yes.
And that's the way I look at it. I don't harbor a bunch of resentment and stuff.
Yeah. I really think the guys starting over to really take that to heart, just be like, oh, really recognize those things where people are taking advantage of you.
You'll see it on the dating circuit. Dr. Glover said it really well. He said, women are either interested or they're not. Don't make it complicated. And so you'll find, a lot of guys obsessed, like, why'd this girl ghost me? Told you everything you needed to know.
There's a book out there. The name escapes me. I think it's like Why Women Have Sex.
Okay.
Basically I think there's like over 236 ways or reasons why women have sex with men, and the big joke is like, if we made a book for, something like for men, it would be like a pamphlet. It's only like 3 things long, point being is maybe that one woman ghosted you because she doesn't like, you going to Chili's or, you're bike riding, or she doesn't like that you like to hike in the mountain. Fine, let her go, because the next one may love going to Chili's, may love bike riding, and may love going hiking. It just depends. So to put all your, I guess, eggs in one basket, be like, oh, I got rejected by her, which for guys, it's like my DNA is being rejected.
Right.
It's like, it's okay. Walk out, do whatever you need to do, but just walk away and move on.
That's her loss. She just, it's her loss.
Yeah.
That's the way I always tried to reframe things because things aren't going to work out. Like even the guys in the space that are like the, pickup artists and all whatever. Like I've known some of them. I've hung out with Troy Francis in England and stuff, they're not bad. None of them are batting 1,000. They're not going out and every girl they talk to, they're getting numbers and they're sleeping with. If you read the book, The Game, they weren't, sleeping with every girl in the bar. It's a numbers game. And so when you go and you do your thing, some girls are interested, some aren't. And so you just want to spend your time with the girls that are interested. That's it.
Right. Kind of going to the book that you, I just want to touch again on it, the book, Get Her to, F You Again.
Yes.
And one of 4 books that you wrote. Is that right?
Yeah. I've got here, I'll just show them real quick here.
Yeah.
Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 18 is my first book. Yeah. It's kind of a handbook for life, but I really wanted it for guys coming out of high school, Yeah. The next one I wrote with RP Thor was Psychology Paradigm, and that's all about rewiring that internal programming. And then I got Get Her to F You Again, which is for guys in dead bedrooms, and then guys who can't turn those dead bedrooms around. Because one of the things I sort of give permission to in Get Her to F You Again is once you've done the work on yourself and you understand what's attractive and not attractive, you learn how to lead from a position of authority, all this kind of stuff. Sometimes you just realize that you've outgrown your wife and she's not getting on board and she's the one coasting and she's holding you back and you're still not happy. Well, now it's time to start the divorce process, but you need to be the one that's leading that effort, right? And so that means you're back on the dating circuit now. So then we have Forget That Bitch, which is all about healing after a breakup and then learning how to never find yourself in this position again. And that's really my goal for guys, is not just to teach them to level up and get better with women. is to figure out what your old bad relationship habits were and learn how to change them so you never end up in these negative situations.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. It's really about taking what, you've been, I like to say, kind of in an experiment wise, what you're inputting into something and changing the output. So if you're constantly putting this input in there where the outcomes are just, this is not acceptable and I'm just not doing well, what you've provided is like kind of a textbook way of saying, okay, we're going to do some different inputs. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a struggle, but there's a way of doing it,
Yeah, it's more effective than anybody. A legend in the space. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Archwinger. Archwinger was on my show one time. He said, red pill's like counting cards. He goes, the appeal of blue pill is that it sometimes works out. Sometimes it does work out. So people, point to the ones where it does work out. Like, look, those people are happy. But red pill sort of gives you the ability to sort of figure out what's probably happening better to give you more of an edge. It's kind of like, you'll win more times at blackjack by counting cards than you will otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where red pill comes in. It's not perfect. You might not all your relationships are still going to work out when you learn all this stuff, but you have more of a chance of having success if you understand it.
Yeah, it's a difference between what society is telling men to do in relationships and learning about human behavior and what to do with relationships is how I look at it.
Yeah,
it's a big difference. It's a big difference. What do women need to understand about how men experience emotional safety and how can they help create emotional safety in a relationship?
How can women create emotional safety? Man, it's funny. Like none of my content is for women, so I usually don't focus on what women can do better. It's all about what can men do better.
Okay.
So I've never really, I don't really care. I don't really care what women can do because I'm like, men need to take charge for themselves. But one thing that I will say, so my girl just recently wrote a book. It's called Bellies Full, Balls Empty. And I helped her,
Bellies Full, Balls Empty.
It's called Bellies Full, Balls Empty. It's the only one.
I'm so sorry, Paul. I can't help but laugh because I don't say it that way, but I say that to my girl.
Yeah. Well, if you look for it on Amazon, there's no other book called that because the thing is that, a lot of women's relationship advice, it's ineffective advice. It's telling women what they want to hear, not what they need to hear.
It's like pandering to them. Yeah.
It really is. And when you tell women what they need to hear when it comes to relationships, a lot of times they take offense to it because it's telling them they have to do better. But it's the same thing when you tell guys, hey, you need to do better. Guys don't like hearing that either. I get a lot of pushback from guys that are like, women need to be accountable. Okay, well, good luck changing them.
Right.
So, for women,
that's funny.
For women, I would say, you would have to take some form of accountability. You would have to take an assessment of what's working and what's not working in your relationships and make similar changes. But one of the best things that women can do when it comes to, I guess, a man's emotional safety, right, is just understand that men have the weight of the world on our shoulders. When a guy is married and he's putting a roof over the head or over your head and food on the table, just have a little bit of appreciation for everything that he's doing for you. And it's so hard for women just because of their solipsistic nature to not care about men's struggles. And they just sort of think they filter everything through their feelings in the moment. And they think, oh, I'm happy right now. He should be happy. Why is he unhappy?
Right.
Oh, and now I'm mad at him for not being happy and ruining my happiness. It's like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. If he doesn't go out and do well in the world, like, you're not going to be with him. The roof's not going to be over your head. There's not going to be food on the table. His kids are going to end up in the streets, and he's just worried about all this stuff. He's worried about his job security, all these types of things. Just have some appreciation for that. And just, that's the biggest thing. And my girl, when she's read all this stuff, and just, not nagging, just learning how not to nag and just sort of learn to meet me where I'm at, that kind of stuff is just it was so eye-opening for her. That's why, like, one of her books is Keys to the Kingdom by Alison Armstrong. Keys to the Kingdom, her biggest takeaway from that is it helped her understand where men are in different stages of our life. Mm-hmm. When we're in high school, like, everything's possible and we're going to go out and we're going to take on the world. And like in our early 20s, we're ambitious and we're going to school and we're trying to, get into new careers and all this kind of stuff. But then in our 30s, we're different. And in 40s, men are a lot different. And so just understanding where men are in different stages versus where she is in her area of life is able to, help her better understand where I'm coming from. Right. When I say different things, and so she never nags me. She does a lot of self-processing where, if something I'm doing bothers her, she'll really sit on it and just sit with it and go, why is this bothering me? She never says a word about it. In fact, there was one time where I went on a motorcycle trip. I went up to Sturgis with Aaron Clary. I rode all the way up to South Dakota, hung out with Clary, and we went to Sturgis. And for social media, I had my picture taken with a couple of like the hot bartenders there, because you got to have street cred on social media. And so I had my picture taken with these two chicks, and she really felt really jealous about it, and she was mad. Her gut instinct was to yell at me about it and get mad about it and all this stuff. And she really was. I had to really think about it. Like, is he the kind of guy that's going to go sleep with these bar hogs, up in Sturgis, or is he the kind of guy that's just not really where he's at, and he's probably just taking pictures with Clary and, I didn't even know about it for like almost a year that she was.
Oh, wow.
That and her gut instinct was she had a problem with it. Sure. She never said anything.
Yeah. My girl will act up a little bit every once in a while and get jealous and stuff. And I have to remind her, I'm like, it's not the actions of her you have to worry about. It's the actions of me you'd have to consider. And then it would be, the next questions are, am I showing any behavior that's causing you or thinking you that I would go out on you? Mm-hmm. Like, no. And it's like, okay, so why do I have to hear about it? Not why, shouldn't you talk to them? Just kind of joking, but I remind her every once in a while. It's like, I watch your behavior, you watch mine. I'm not going to worry about anybody else. Yeah. Well,
one big thing that I tell guys too, though, is you can't logic your girl, so that's true. All that kind of stuff is like you're logically breaking it down for her, but that doesn't change her feelings. Right. And so as long as you understand that, you just be like, oh, so you were jealous about those girls up there? Well, what can I say? I'm a happening guy. That's how I handle it with her. I was like, well, you got all this.
Right. That's hilarious.
She goes, oh, you're right. I was making it, whatever. And now it's just a big funny joke. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's hilarious. I'll do stuff like that too, where it's like, if you who work this work or something like that. And I'll be like, it happened again. Yeah. Things I got hit on again. What can I say? That kind of stuff. Yeah. It's funny.
When you got it, you got it.
When you got it, you got it. That's hilarious. Yeah. The question stemmed from, how can women understand men when they're, trying to get them an emotional safety spot, a safe space to be emotional. And that stems from hearing this. It was a therapist having this discussion, and she was a couples therapist. And the wife was complaining about how her husband, who's sitting like next to her, saying like doesn't open up, he doesn't tell me anything, all that. So both the wife and the therapist convinced this man to open up, and he unloaded. Apparently, it's to the point of where he was crying.
Right. Yeah.
And then later, I think I don't know how many therapy sessions later, it came to the therapist's knowledge. The wife told the therapist, she's like, after that happened, I am not attracted to him. Her attraction decreased. What really was mind-blowing for me is that the therapist said, I don't know why. I don't know why she did this, because it's what she wanted, and then he did it. Yeah. And now I don't know why. And I was like, whoa. The message there is basically guys don't say anything because you're in danger of losing your woman. And I was like, whoa. And I've experienced that. I've gone through that where I put myself in that position going, I'm so emotional and I'm supposed to do this. And I feel like absolute crap. And then I look at the girl and she's just disgusted. I'm like, okay, that just made it worse. I'm never doing this again. There's no way.
Yeah. So that putting it in that context makes a lot of sense. So I think if what women could do better is having some more of that empathy of, your guy's going to go through stuff too. He's going to go through struggles, and just having some of the empathy. The problem is women's solipsistic nature won't allow them to do that. A lot of us think that women are empathetic, and they really aren't. They're really pretty bad about it. A lot of people think that women have good emotional intelligence. They really don't. They're just emotional. There's a difference. And so what I tell guys is, this is why I don't coach women, because if I told them that, they would get mad at me, right? So, but if I explain a guy what's really happening, guys get it because of that logic, right? And so one of the things that we say in the space is women don't care about your struggles. They wait at the finish line, bang the winners, right? And so what a lot of guys take from that is, I can't be open with my girl about my struggles, right? And so what I would say to that is, it's probably best that you don't lay your struggles on your girl, because she's emotionally not able to handle that most of the time.
Right.
So it's best if you don't. But we have habits. We sometimes let things slip. And so it's really best for guys to have awareness of it. And if you do find yourself explaining all your struggles and all your problems and everything that you're worried about and all this kind of stuff, one is best not to get to a place where you're crying about it. Because when you start crying, like women can't, like, they might think that they care, they might even want to care, but they're just not wired to care.
Right.
And so if you do cry, that will kill her attraction for you. Absolutely.
Yep.
And so what I would tell guys is, if you find yourself in that position of opening up about your struggles and stuff like that, as long as you cap it with a positive that, you know what, I've got it figured out though. A friend of mine gave me a book, or, I'm going to watch some YouTube videos about it, or I've already got a plan. That's even better. I've already got a plan in mind though. I'm like, tomorrow morning, I'm going to hit the ground running. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z and fix this.
Yep.
She's fine with it. She's fine with your struggles as long as she thinks that you can handle it.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to. Women need to feel that you have life handled so that they can feel safe in her.
Yes.
And that's 100%. Where tests come from. They want to know that you can handle, if you can't handle her bullshit, how are you going to handle life's bullshit?
Exactly.
And so that's really what it comes down to, is her feeling safe and secure in the relationship. And if you have all these emotional problems, all of a sudden she doesn't feel safe and secure now. She's like, this guy can't handle life. Right. How is he going to handle life for us?
Yeah. Yeah. I started doing the whole, if it comes up again, my approach was, this is what I struggle with, but I'm dealing with it. I'm doing my best to take care of it, and just stop right there. And then, oh, okay, good. Oh, great. Okay. The response is always like, oh, good to hear. One thing, like, this is what I'm struggling with, but this is what I'm working on, or this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm working on. Yeah. Nothing more. Just keep it short and sweet. She wants to know that you got a plan. Yes. And that it's not going to topple you or whatever. And yes. Yeah. And it's so hard for guys, because of the egalitarian fairy tale. They want to feel like they have their wife to lean on. She's the closest person to them. I need to be able to lean on her when I'm struggling. And even women say that. She's like, I want him. I want someone I can lean on, but he should be able to lean on me. Yeah, he should. Right. But that doesn't mean that you're mentally and emotionally capable of being that rock for him. And so I usually tell guys that's not her job. That's not her job. That's what the boys are for. That's why you should get in men's groups and have other dudes that you can lean on when you're struggling through stuff. Because we do go through struggles. We're not perfect. Right. We're not, like I said, we're not all batting 1,000. It's good to have a group of guys that you can say, hey man, can I run this by you? And men are very action oriented. We're very problem. We like to solve problems. And if you bring it to the guys, you'll have 100 guys giving you 1,000,000 solutions. Right. Right. Women aren't that way. Women don't want to solve problems. They just want to emote. And so if you're just emoting to her, now she looks at you like you're being a woman, and they don't want to date other women. And they start losing attraction right there for you.
Yep.
Right there. Yeah, it's really, it's one of those tricky things where you got to be careful on what you're really saying to it. It's okay to be vulnerable, but leave the crying and emotion for the other guys.
Yeah, I like to tell guys, if you guys get nothing else from this interview, if you really want to understand women, to really simplify women, they are security-seeking creatures that respond to. Yeah, that's it.
Well, Paul, we've covered a lot in this interview. Any final comments besides what you just said? Because the final one that you just said is really fantastic.
Yeah, well, I will just say life gets better when you stop taking women so seriously and start having stuff. As soon as I used to be miserable. When I was floundering on the dating circuit after the divorce, I was bitter about the divorce. I was floundering on the dating circuit. I was just in a very negative headspace when it came to dating and relationships. And when I started making things fun, I started looking at things more positively. I started having way more success, and now I'm in a really great, healthy relationship with a woman that treats me like an absolute king. And
nice.
Life gets better, man. Life gets better.
I'm really impressed that she held back on telling you how she felt the jealousy for a year, you said?
Yeah, it was like a year.
That's amazing.
And it wasn't even a fight when she brought it up. She just, it was a very matter of fact conversation where I think we were maybe talking about something I talked about in the podcast that day. She's my biggest fan. She tunes into all the shows. And she was like, there was that one time when you went up to Sturgis, you took pictures with the chicks, and I've really felt jealous about it. And I was like, really? You never say anything about it? She goes, well, I just like to sit with things and process things. And, I realized there was nothing to be jealous about.
Impressive.
And she's like, you're an attractive guy. And, so I'm like, I know, that's what I tell everybody,
Yeah. Can you tell me something I don't know, please? Come on.
Yeah.
So Paul, where can people find you?
Well, yeah, you mentioned it already. If you go to comeonmanpod.com, that actually is hosted by Gumroad, so you can get some free material there. If you are in a dead bedroom situation right now and you want to better understand why that's happened, grab my free ebook. She's Made You Weak. It's you can get that there. And then if you're going through a breakup and you're thinking about getting your ex back, and you need to move on, but you're thinking about getting her back, grab the ebook that's there. It's called Fine, Here's How You Get Her Back. It does break down the strategy of how you get your ex back, but it also explains why that's an absolute terrible idea. So I'd grab one of those 2 free items there. And then tune into my podcast. I have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Your stuff is on Audible. Is that right or no?
Well, the books are on Audible. Yeah. So if you want to, if you prefer audiobooks, if you prefer, which I do too, audiobooks are such a game changer. They're effortless learning. You can listen to them in your car, in the gym. You're bettering yourself just by like the time in the day that you're wasting. Right. So just throw on an audiobook. They're all available on Audible. Absolutely.
All right. So Paul Bauer reminded us today that heartbreak isn't the end. It's the invitation to rebuild with intention. Masculinity isn't about control. It's about clarity. And relationships thrive not on perfection, but on presence. If you're ready to take the next step, revisit this episode, journal your thoughts, and start the work, because healing isn't passive, it's choice. Thanks for tuning into the Glen Gilbert Connection. Until next time, stay grounded, stay curious, and keep building the legacy only you can leave. Paul, thank you so much for your time. Again, I really, truly appreciate it. Thank you.